The explosives they were carrying exploded without warning. In an instant, huge flames spread out along with the shockwave. It's a success. Holding the telescope in her hand, she saw flames rushing out of the Shadow Men's nest halfway up the mountain. It's a pity for those two spiritualists. Their sacrifice was worth it. Goddess did not feel it was a pity. She even felt that it was worth it. It was really worth it to pay two mediocre spiritualists to solve the big problem in front of them. The flames gradually subsided. Just then, countless eagle men rushed out of the Shadow Men's lair. Those eagle men, full of anger, rushed toward the bunker where Goddess and her team were hiding. The sky was dark, and there were far more of them than the first time they were attacked. Oh no! Goddess's expression changed dramatically. Those eagle men began to rush under the bunker, regardless of casualties. This was when Goddess's armed army came into play. Their machine guns caused a lot of casualties to the eagle men. But there were too many of these eagle men. And the armed army did not form a perfect front. This caused the power of their firearms to not be used to the fullest. If it was the kind of battle between two armies, where the soldiers all relied on each other and formed a defensive front, then guns would play the greatest role. But like this, you hide in one place, I hide in another, unable to effectively protect each other. In this case, if the eagle men attacked from all angles, it would be difficult for the soldiers to resist. And the situation was also developing in this direction. These eagle men were already charging forward regardless of casualties. And the Magic Legion also couldn't exert their combat advantage in the melee. The chaotic scene made it difficult for them to cast a few spells in peace. Except for a few powerful spiritualists, most of the other spiritualists were covering their heads and scurrying away. The team suffered a lot of casualties. Goddess was a little dazed. What do we do? What do we do now, Master? Let's go, we can't stay here. The subordinate who had been accompanying Goddess immediately pulled Goddess back. Behind them, some spiritualists who had fought their way out of the encirclement followed one after another. Everyone was fleeing frantically. The scene was too chaotic. No one could stop this chaos. Goddess saw the eagle men chasing behind her. The spiritualist beside her immediately stopped and released an ice arrow, which scattered into countless smaller ice arrows in midair, instantly killing a dozen eagle men. But there were still more eagle men chasing after them. And the ice spiritualist who was in charge of the rear also died tragically under the hands of the eagle men amid a scream. Goddess was scared out of her wits. Those eagle men had already pounced on her again. Just when Goddess thought she was dead for sure, suddenly, those eagle men stopped and hovered in midair, but they didn't dare to move forward at all. Goddess and those spiritualists who had survived all let out a long sigh of relief. Only then did Goddess realize that they seemed to have entered a building complex. This building complex was full of the aesthetic style of ancient Greece, and the color was also mainly white. The building complex was full of grandeur and magnificence, and at the same time, it exuded a fascinating aura. And in the center of the building complex, there was a towering tree. That towering tree stood in the center just like that. Goddess's entire body and mind trembled. It was actually here. Had she really found it? The Holy Garden. This was the Holy Garden. She didn't expect to really find it. Was that the golden apple tree? This was also the first time Goddess had found the Holy Garden and seen the golden apple tree. Even for Goddess, it was a legend. Goddess couldn't wait to run in through the gate. As for the battle behind her, she was no longer in the mood to pay attention. The thing that he had been dreaming of was in there. Chapter 2092. The walls of the Holy Garden weren't tall. Let's go in first and see what's going on inside. Goddess was surprisingly calm. A spiritualist stepped forward and leaped onto the wall with quick steps. However, the moment he landed on the wall, a screen of light flashed in front of him. Hiss! Half of the spiritualist's body fell to the ground. The screen of light cut his body in half. Before he died, he didn't even have the chance to scream before he was sent to the underworld. Everyone furrowed their brows. Master, that screen of light should be the glory of Olympus. Blast that curtain of light apart, Goddess ordered. Master, this is the glory of Olympus. Let's try, Goddess said coldly with a grim expression. Let's wait until all of our people are here. If we try now, it'll only be a waste of mana, Goddess's subordinate explained. Goddess thought about it and nodded in agreement. The glory of Olympus was a spell created by the legendary Queen of Heaven Hera. The Holy Garden was under the management of Queen of Heaven Hera, so it was reasonable that the glory of Olympus was here. That was why it was almost impossible for a few spiritualists to break through the glory of Olympus. The glory of Olympus wasn't unbreakable. In history, hundreds of spiritualists had broken the glory of Olympus, as well as thousands of others. So they also had a chance to break the glory of Olympus. But it also depended on who released the glory of Olympus. The glory of Olympus in front of them was definitely a barrier created by Queen of Heaven Hera. Without enough people, it was almost impossible to break it. Attacking now would only be a waste of time and mana. The Eagle Men didn't chase Goddess's group into the Holy Garden. But the group behind them was still being attacked by the Eagle Men. The explosion just now had completely enraged them. All the Eagle Men came out of their nest. One or two more spiritualists managed to break through the Eagle Men's attack. Everyone's mood sank to the bottom. The Eagle Men's attack lasted for a few hours. Goddess's group lost more than 1,000 people. The Eagle Men, on the other hand, had suffered even more casualties, more than 3,000 of them. The remaining Eagle Men finally left. At this moment, Goddess's group had less than 800 people left. Half of them were spiritualists, and the other half were armed soldiers. Among these people, most of them had injuries of varying degrees. This battle was a devastating blow to Goddess and her team. Fear was written all over their faces. But no one backed down or betrayed him. Because to them, Goddess was their everything. All of them had received the blood of Goddess. It was Goddess's blood that gave them life. Therefore, they also needed to pay absolute loyalty. This was also the reason why Goddess could order them around at will. All of you, do your best to destroy this light screen, Goddess ordered. After a short period of reorganization, hundreds of spiritualists tried to break through the glory of Olympus. But the result was still disappointing. The glory of Olympus showed no signs of being breached. This caused everyone to be greatly disappointed. But it was also within reason. This was a spell created by the Queen of Heaven, Hera, and she had personally set it up. In the past, the records of the glory of Olympus had been broken by mortal necromancers. Even if it was the same spell, the effect would certainly be different for mortals and gods. Hundreds of spiritualists worked together to attack the glory of Olympus, but the light of Olympus did not even cause a ripple. Damn it! Goddess did not hide her anger at all. You useless things. Even though Goddess knew that it was not their fault at all. But at this time, she needed to find someone to vent her anger on. There was no one else. She naturally needed to vent her anger on her subordinates. Master, only by obtaining the scepter of ruler from those people can you pass through the glory of Olympus. The scepter of ruler was also known as the scepter of Zeus. In the age of gods thousands of years ago, the kings of ancient Greece had to come to Mount Olympus to pay tribute. In order for the kings to enter Mount Olympus, every king recognized by the gods was given a scepter of Zeus. Although the scepter of Zeus was not a powerful magic item, it allowed one to pass through every part of Mount Olympus. Over time, the scepter of Zeus became the symbol of the king. That was why the scepter of Zeus was called the scepter of ruler. Godress had searched for the tombs or ruins of many ancient kings. But none of them had found the scepter of ruler. On the other hand, Ruan Faxabin and the others had found the scepter of ruler in one of the ruins with only a few people. From the beginning to the end, what Godress wanted was the scepter in Ruan Faxabin's hands. Godress's face was gloomy. We will wait here. As long as Ruan Faxabin and the others are not dead, they will have to come here eventually. Or rather, they have been here for a long time. Suddenly, Godress had an idea. Use detection. I feel that they are nearby. Several spiritualists who were good at detection walked out and used detection at the same time. Instantly, Ruan Faxabin and the others' concealment spells were exposed. In fact, they were less than 200 meters away from Godress's team. They had originally planned to waste time with Godress. They didn't come out until Godress lost her patience and finally left. But no one expected that Godress would suddenly have a flash of inspiration. She suddenly had her subordinates use detection to make their concealment spells ineffective. Godress looked at Ruan Faxabin and the others with a complicated expression on her face. Ruan Faxabin and the others were also helpless. Even though Godress's team had suffered heavy losses. But they still didn't plan to fight Godress head-on. Miss Godress, what a coincidence. We meet again. Ruan Faxabin quickly adjusted his mentality, and his face was full of smiles and sincerity. Ruan Faxabin, remember what I said last time. The next time we meet, we won't be so peaceful. Are you sure you want to fight us here? Ruan Faxabin's smile was still the same. It's not that I underestimate you, but even if you win, you won't be able to escape unscathed, especially you. Hand over the scepter of ruler, and I will let bygones be bygones. Hee hee. Do you think we will believe you? If you refuse, then let's start an all-out war. Maybe we can't escape unscathed, but you will definitely die. I will only choose 20 of my subordinates to enter the Holy Garden with me to protect me. You can rest assured now, right? Ruan Faxi thought for a moment and exchanged a look with Risa. Risa disliked Godress, but she still understood the situation. One eye of Apollo or two? One, Godress answered. You can have the eye of Apollo. No matter how many golden apples there are, they all belong to us. All right, I accept this distribution plan, Godress said. Just then, Ruan Faxi walked to Godress with the ruler's scepter. The others still stood behind, maintaining a certain distance from Godress's team. Godress spread her hands in front of Ruan Faxi. Ruan Faxi shook his head. I won't hand over the ruler's scepter. Didn't you say that you need to gather a large amount of magic to activate the ruler's scepter? I'll do it. Ruan Faxi was still very careful. All right. Godress didn't want to have a dispute with Ruan Faxben over this kind of thing. After all, the Holy Garden was right in front of her. She just wanted to get what she wanted as soon as possible. Raise the ruler's scepter, one of Godress's subordinates said. Even though we're gathering magic in the scepter, the wielder also needs a large amount of magic. If you don't have enough magic, you should give up on controlling the ruler's scepter. I know. I don't need you to remind me. Let's begin. Then let's begin. Just then, hundreds of spiritualists started sending magic into the ruler's scepter. Ruan Faxi immediately felt the magic gathered by the ruler's scepter. He felt like the wielder was a super bomb. The large amount of magic made the ruler's scepter shine so brightly that people could not look at it directly. Ruan Faxi quickly analyzed the activated ruler's scepter. Soon, Ruan Faxi understood the basics of the operation. Ruan Faxi raised the ruler's scepter and pointed it at the entrance of the Holy Garden. A torrent of magic shot towards the entrance. An opening immediately appeared in the barrier of light that enveloped the sacred garden. Goddess could not wait to go in. Stop. If you don't want to be cut open, stop, Ruan Faxi scolded. What are you doing? Going back on your words. Goddess turned and glared at Ruan Faxi. No. The order of entry needs to be changed, Ruan Faxi said. My men will go in first. Fine. Goddess's face darkened as she gritted her teeth. You guys go in first, Miss Goddess. Other than you and the 20 men you chose, everyone else retreat to a place outside the safety line, Ruan Faxi said to Axayanli and the others. Goddess could only agree to Ruan Faxi's request. After Axayanli, Lisa, Colin, and more went in, it was Goddess and her men's turn. After Goddess and her men entered, Ruan Fax Ben entered as well. Then, the opening in the light barrier was closed. Stop them, Goddess said and turned to leave. She no longer needed to hide her intentions. This also meant that the agreement they made not long ago was now completely invalid. Faxi, it seems like she can't wait to tear off all pretenses. That's normal. Is her intention really Apollo's eye? This is Queen Hera's treasury. There are countless treasures here. Maybe Apollo's eye is only one of them. What we need to do is find those treasures before she does. Chapter 2094. Even though they were on the same starting line. But Goddess knew this place better. It wasn't her first time here. She had been here before when she was very young. Moreover, the 20 subordinates that Goddess had chosen might not be the strongest among them. But they were the most difficult to deal with. Goddess never intended to let these 20 people defeat Ruan Fax Ben and the others from the beginning. Her goal was to have them keep Ruan Fax Ben busy. Call on, I don't need you here. Go after them and find the treasure faster than that woman, Ruan Faxaben said. Kellen immediately circled around the battlefield. But before he could run out of the battlefield, a magic rope made of black light wrapped around Kellen's leg. Master said that none of you are allowed to leave. The spiritualist's head caught fire before he could finish his sentence. Who does your master think she is? She's just an old witch, Reisa said disdainfully. The flames burned the spiritualist's head beyond recognition. Luckily, his companions helped him put out the fire. Otherwise, Reisa might have roasted his head. But Kalon still took the opportunity to escape. Kalon, if you see that woman, kill her for me. Ruan Faxi didn't need to worry anymore at this time. This time, they completely shed all pretense of cordiality. There was no need to ease up, nor was there any reason to do so. Other than the garden in the center, there were many buildings around it. The buildings were like a maze. It was too complicated for Kalon, who was here for the first time. He did not even find Goddess's shadow, let alone the treasure room. The place was too complicated. Kalon felt dizzy after walking around a few times. Suddenly, Kalon saw a square palace in front of him. The style of the palace was similar to the Parthenon temple. There were 12 white stone pillars in the shape of gears, and the eaves of the palace had exquisite reliefs. Even with the passage of time, one could still feel the craftsmanship and elegance of the reliefs. Colin naturally thought that the palace was a very important place in this place. Thus, Kalon entered the palace without hesitation. However, the interior of the palace was empty. There was a stone pedestal at the top, and on it sat a tall, withered corpse. Even though the corpse was dead, it still maintained a pondering posture. He rested his chin on his fists and gazed into the distance. His golden hair had lost its luster. He was wearing white off-the-shoulder clothes, with vines tied around his waist and a golden hoop on his head. Beside the seat was a pair of gauntlets with a lion's head. Colin felt that this mummy was a little scary. It was as if the mummy could jump up and strangle him at any time. Colin cautiously approached the mummy. After carefully observing for a long time, he did not see any movement from the mummy. There definitely wouldn't be any treasure here. Is this your glory? Ha, so this is how you define glory. I did not willingly. Hercules' voice suddenly became majestic and angry. I am cursed by her, a curse that even Zeus could not undo. Yes, even Zeus couldn't do it, but I can do it. My blood can. My blood can give you a new life and help you break free from Hera's curse. Now is the time for you to make a decision. Accept my domination, or continue to be dominated by that old witch who you hate and also hates you. Chapter 2095. Goddess walked up to Hercules. She clenched her fist and squeezed out a drop of blood. The blood fell on Hercules' palm. Continue to be Hera's servant and then wither and die here, or accept my control. The choice is in your hands. Hercules moved his palm with difficulty, and his eyes fell on the drop of blood. At this moment, Goddess was also nervous. Her lifelong pursuit was now in the hands of Hercules. Accept this drop of blood, and she would have everything. Even if Hercules was only a demigod, he had power beyond that of a god. But if he refused, all Goddess's hopes would be dashed. At this moment, Goddess had already stopped talking. She had said what she needed to say. The more he said, the more likely it would make Hercules more resistant. So it was best not to overdo it. Are you worried about my refusal now? Hercules looked at Goddess. Of course. You are my biggest hope, Goddess said. My hesitation has made my choice clear. With that, the drop of blood that Hercules kept his promise seeped into his skin. In an instant, Hercules took a deep breath. His body suddenly exuded a strong aura. His dry skin began to swell like an inflated balloon. His withered blonde hair became lustrous. His sunken face began to fill with blood. Whoosh, every breath he took would make him stronger. The air seemed to be suppressed by his aura and became viscous. Goddess's breathing became very difficult. But she also felt the overwhelming power in Hercules. And the stronger Hercules was, the happier she would be. Hercules walked step by step to Godelus and knelt on one knee in front of Godelus. My master, I will offer you my most sincere loyalty. Even when Hercules knelt down, Goddess only reached his waist. Hercules was too big for his eyes. Goddess's fingertips gently plundered Hercules' muscles. Goddess had never felt such surging and boundless power from her subordinates. Only a god like Hercules was qualified to follow in his footsteps. Compared to Hercules, the men she had recruited in the past were like shit. Get up and follow me. At this moment, Goddess no longer needed anything. As long as she had Hercules, she could have everything. And in this holy garden, Hera's treasure room did not need to be specially obtained. In any case, everything here would be his sooner or later. Goddess took Hercules on a tour as if she was touring her own back garden. At the same time, Ruan Fax Ben, Xianli, Lisa, Moore, and Colon all felt an indescribable terror in the air. Goosebumps rose all over their bodies. They did not know what it was that caused them to have such a reaction. He had clearly dealt with Goddess subordinates. Why did he suddenly feel this uneasy aura? Where did this uneasiness come from? Colon, where are you now? Ruan Fax Ben asked through the communicator. I don't know where I am. It's too big here, Colon replied. Did you see anything out of the ordinary? No. I didn't see a living thing along the way. What about Goddess? I didn't see her either. I don't know where she went. Do you still remember the way back? Come back and meet us immediately. We can't stay here anymore. We have to leave immediately, Ruan Faxben said. Xanli was a little reluctant when she heard Ruan Faxben's words. But we haven't found the golden apple yet. Xanli, the golden apple is on the big tree in front of us, but now is definitely not the best time. We have been here once, so we can foresee more dangers next time. If we continue to stay here and risk our lives, it will be a very unwise choice. Okay. Xanli was not very willing. But she had learned to listen to orders along the way. And she trusted Ruan Faxben's judgment. You can't go anywhere. Just then, Godarus came out. Hercules followed behind Godarus. Everyone saw Hercules the moment they saw him. They knew that the sense of danger and uneasiness came from Hercules. Ruan Faxben's face finally showed a serious expression. He was no longer as relaxed and natural as before. The terrifying aura made his smile disappear. Miss Godarus, is he your real target? That's right. Now, Godarus was no longer angry or anxious. All she had was calmness and calmness. Of course, she did not forget the humiliation that Ruan Faxben and the others had inflicted on her. Since you've already achieved your goal, why must you be so ruthless? If you did not offend me, maybe I would have let you go to show my magnanimity. But you lowly guys, how dare you offend me? Godarus became angrier as she spoke. You started all the trouble, Miss Godarus. Then all of you should obey, not disobey and disobey. It has already happened. Let's get over it. Reisa curled her lips. This guy had learned bad things from the president. At this critical moment, he still had to make a joke. He really felt that the woman was joking with them. I hope you can still laugh later. Xanli looked at Godarus. Miss Godarus, not everyone has to give in to you. I don't think you are nobler than anyone. Shut up, lowly woman, Godarus snorted. Godarus snorted coldly. Perhaps I need to let my most loyal servant show you what it means to be in awe. Everyone was ready to fight. Seeing the attitude of Ruan Faxben and the others, Godarus could not help but show some mockery. It seems that you still do not understand who you are facing. Well, I will give you 30 seconds. If you can hold on for 30 seconds, then I will let you go. Godarus waved her hand gently. Hercules, 30 seconds, is that enough? Master, it is enough. Hercules. Everyone's expression changed when they heard the name. For Europeans and Americans, the legend of Hercules was too resounding. Hercules snorted and threw another punch. This punch was more powerful than the previous one. When this force fell on the light of Olympus, the whole sacred garden trembled. Everyone could not stand still. 30 seconds are up, Miss Godarus. Ruan Faxi breathed a long sigh of relief. Hercules, kill them for me, Hercules shouted. I want to shatter the light of Olympus. Hercules seemed to be resisting Godarus's order. They have the scepter of Zeus. You don't need to shatter the light of Olympus. You can come and go as you please. Now, go and kill them. Okay. Hercules could not really resist, but as a demigod, he had a certain resistance. Miss Godarus, are you going to go back on your word? Ruan Faxi looked at Godarus. Although they knew it was inevitable, Ruan Faxben and the others were still disappointed. I don't need to promise anything to ants, and I don't need to abide by anything, Godarus said calmly. I see. Ruan Faxben sighed. Have you given up? Seeing the disappointment of Ruan Faxben and the others, Godarus suddenly felt the thrill of revenge. I have given up, Ruan Faxi said helplessly. Are you regretting it now? Yes, I do regret it, Ruan Faxi said. But now, I will never forgive you. What do you think I regret? Do you think I regret not accepting your recruitment? Of course not. You think too much. I regret not killing you. It was such a good opportunity to slay a god. For thousands of years, there were not many people who succeeded in slaying a god. Such a good opportunity was placed in front of me, but I did not cherish it. Bastard! Bastard, with just you. Just then, a dot of light appeared in the distance of Mount Olympus. The dot of light was too far away, so it was difficult to see what it was. It looked like a meteor with a long tail. Godress's eyes were also attracted by the meteor. That meteor was simply too eye-catching. Moreover, it seemed to be flying in their direction. Godress widened her eyes, trying to see what it was. But the thing was wrapped in a ball of fire, and it was so fast that she could not see it at all. It flew from the horizon to in front of her in a few seconds. It was too fast. Rumble, the thing smashed into the glory of Olympus. In an instant, the earth shook. The impact and explosion of the falling thing swallowed the spiritualists in the periphery. Godress lost her balance and fell to the ground. Her eyes never left the glory of Olympus. The glory of Olympus disintegrated and shattered in front of her eyes. It was like a mirror being smashed by a fist. The fragments rippled and spread to the surroundings. So scary. What was that? What was going on? Xianli looked at the figure falling from the sky. Her mouth was wide open, her face full of shock. Uncle! Xianli cried out. Chen Zhao turned to Xianli. If Faxi hadn't told me, how long were you going to be stubborn? Xianli pouted. We can solve it. Divine Emperor of the Nine Heavens. Chapter 2097. Miss Godress, did you forget what I told you? Take good care of my daughter. Seems like you didn't do it. Chen Zhao turned to look at Godress. Godress looked confused. She didn't know how Chen Zhao had come in. Was the impact just now caused by him? How did he do it? But Godress wasn't going to waste time talking to Chen Zhao. Kill him. Hercules charged at Chen Zhao. Boom! The huge impact sent Ruan Faxburn, Xianli, Kalon, Moore, Risa, and Godress flying. Only Chen Zhao and Hercules were left. Godress was dizzy and she climbed up from the ground. She was about to scold Hercules, but she saw Hercules take a few steps back while Chen Zhao stood where he was, unscathed. Hercules clenched his fists and stared at Chen Zhao in astonishment. No one has ever been able to take my fists, not even giants. That's because you haven't met me before. Chen Zhao moved his joints. But I want to say the same thing to you. You don't think that's my real power, do you? Hercules' gaze suddenly sharpened. The golden light on his body was like a blooming flower, instantly blossoming. Godress had been a bit panicked when she saw Hercules lose to Chen Zhao. Now that Hercules had become even stronger, she was overjoyed. Hercules was so powerful, but this wasn't his real power. This made Godress even more excited. Wrapped in golden light, Hercules charged at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao took the punch head-on and also retreated a few meters. But the next moment, Chen Zhao kicked hard and shot at Hercules like an arrow. Boom, 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 the entire holy garden was enveloped in the terrifying power of Chen Zhao and Hercules. Godress's face was filled with disbelief. There was actually someone in the world who could fight against Hercules. It was natural that Hercules was powerful. Because he was the son of Zeus. He was Hercules, the god of strength. But what was up with that man? He was so powerful that it was abnormal. He could actually fight back and forth with Hercules. and their attacks were wreaking havoc here. However, to her delight, Chen Zhao seemed to be weaker than Hercules. Chen Zhao was punched to the ground by Hercules. Roar! Hercules thumped his chest and roared like a gorilla. I am Hercules. No one can defeat me in strength. Chen Zhao spat out a mouthful of blood. He rarely spat blood anymore. That last scene in Rome didn't count. Chen Zhao wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Looking at Hercules, who was swaggering in front of him. Uncle. Seeing him injured, Xanli couldn't help but worry. Don't go over. Ruan pulled Xanli back. Your uncle is fine. Ruan Faxi knew Chen Zhao too well. That was just Chen Zhao's normal state. Chen Zhao took a deep breath. Then let's start the second round. Mortal, it's already amazing for you to be able to do this. Bang! Before Hercules could finish, he was sent flying by Chen Zhao's sudden punch. Hercules touched the blood at the corner of his mouth. Roar! Hercules roared again and pounced at Chen Zhao. But Chen Zhao wasn't in the same state as before. After being assimilated by the darkness, Chen Zhao's strength had multiplied. Hercules didn't believe it and pounced at Chen Zhao again. But the result was the same as before. He was sent flying by Chen Zhao's punch again. Hercules didn't feel good after taking the punch. He started spitting out mouthfuls of blood. Is that all you've got? Chen Zhao tilted his head and looked at Hercules. Ah! All the veins on Hercules' body popped up. Blue veins popped on his forehead. Hercules' strength increased again. His breathing became chaotic. His eyes were bloodshot and his chest heaved up and down like a mad beast. Pfft! Is this the true face of Hercules? Chen Zhao mocked Hercules. I'll kill you. Hercules growled. He stamped his foot, and the ground cracked. Boom! Hercules' strength bombarded Chen Zhao. In this state, Hercules' strength had increased several times again. Return to 1. Chen Zhao also increased his strength. Hercules and Chen Zhao were locked in a contest of strength. Nevertheless, Chen Zhao was still better than him. Hercules was sent flying and was punched by Chen Zhao again. It landed on the trunk of the golden apple tree. The golden apple tree was a sacred tree, but it wasn't harder than regular plants. It was just that it was bigger than ordinary plants. The golden apple tree was smashed into pieces by Hercules' attack. A golden fruit rolled in front of Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao picked it up. Is this the legendary golden apple? Hercules stood up again. He vomited more blood, but he was already in a state of madness. His injuries were worse, but it also made him crazier. Hercules' state reminded Chen Zhao of Ascamor, the demon that had been sealed underground in the African plains for a long time. Of course, while their states were similar, they weren't the same kind of magic. Ascamor's was a talent, an innate ability. The more injured he was, the more powerful he was. Hercules, on the other hand, was purely his willpower. He didn't actually become stronger. He just forced himself to release more power. If he continued to fight in this state, he would only die faster. Of course, Chen Zhao wouldn't pity him. He was an enemy, the kind that couldn't be defeated easily. Sympathizing with him was just asking for trouble. Chen Zhao casually tossed the golden apple to Xanli, giant spirit transformation. Hercules wasn't inferior like Ascamor. He was a true Hercules. If he continued to strengthen like this, he would only get himself into trouble. So, Chen Zhao didn't plan to go easy. By now, Hercules had lost most of his rationality. He couldn't judge the situation anymore. He only attacked Chen Zhao out of instinct. Every time he took a step, the ground would crack. His blood was burning with flames, starting from his insides and spreading throughout his entire body. Hercules jumped up heavily. Chen Zhao also moved at the same time. He didn't hold back at all. His speed and power had reached the peak of what Chen Zhao could release. The two collided in the sky. The huge impact also ignited Hercules' god blood. Boom! Everyone forgot about everything else as they stared at the sky. They looked at the sun in the sky. It was a sun with a diameter of 1,000 meters. It wasn't a small sun anymore. It was like a real sun falling. God King of the Nine Heavens. Chapter 2098. Goddess kept looking up at the sky. She clenched her fists tightly. Just then, something fell from the sky. It was a person. More accurately, half a person. What Goddess saw was a body without an upper body. Everything above the abdomen had disappeared. Goddess felt as if she was suffocating. How could she not recognize that half of the body belonged to Hercules? It was only half an hour. She fell from heaven to hell. Chen Zhao descended from the sky and landed before Goddess with a suffocating pressure. Goddess was so scared that her face turned pale, and she fell to the ground. She had never thought that what she'd spent her entire life pursuing would be so fragile. President Ruan Fasabin walked over. What? You want to plead for her? Chen Zhao glanced at Ruan. Ruan had an evil smile on his face. No, I just want to feel what it's like to kill a god. Chen Zhao glanced at Ruan and took 2 steps back. When Goddess looked at Ruan, her eyes were filled with pleading. Miss Goddess, I don't think you've ever thought that you'd face such a situation, right? Mr. Fasabin. Give me a chance. Ruan Faxbin's smile was still as chilling as ever. Sorry, we're the same kind of people. Whatever you want, I can give it to you, including myself. Goddess didn't look high and mighty anymore. She was like a woman who'd been humiliated. Before Ruan, she didn't dare to do anything other than compromise. Your suggestion is tempting, but I still want to try killing a god. Ruan was very sure. This was probably the only chance he'd get to kill a god in his life. Even if Goddess was only a demigod, even if she was the weakest among all demigods. Nevertheless, Ruan wasn't a picky eater. No matter how weak she was still a demigod. Of course, there was another important reason. Chen Zhao was right behind him. Just then, Mount Olympus started shaking violently. The tremor this time was more violent than any of the previous ones. The entire mountain was being torn apart. The battle had destroyed the foundation of Mount Olympus. This mountain was not the real Mount Olympus. It was just a corner of Mount Olympus. Although it was huge, the mountain was not actually one with the earth. Therefore, after that fierce battle, it was normal for the mountains and the earth to be torn apart. Moreover, both Chen Zhao and Hercules had the ability to tear the earth and destroy mountains. Farsben, hurry up. Under Chen Zhao's urging, Ruan Faxi's happiness decreased a lot. However, if he continued to delay, the mountain would probably collapse. Therefore, he didn't have much time to have fun. Of course, he still killed Goddess and did not leave her alive. After Ruan Faxben killed Goddess, Brendel was shocked. Chen Zhao led everyone away from the collapsing Mount Olympus. Everyone held hands and Chen Zhao lifted them into the air. The people in the sky were just in time to enjoy the process of the mountain collapsing. What a pity. There are so many treasures and that golden apple tree. Ruan Faxi sighed and looked at the collapsing palace below. President, why don't you go down and dig? You might find something good. No need. Didn't you find the golden apple already? Chen Zhao said calmly. Chen Zhao didn't plan on going through the trash. He would dig up something of unknown value in a collapsed mountain. The effort and the reward might not be proportional. After leaving Mount Olympus, Chen Zhao put everyone on the ground. How do you want to split the golden apple? Chen Zhao didn't plan on getting involved in the process. After all, they'd obtained it through hard work. Everyone looked at each other, not knowing how to split it. How about we cut it into 5 pieces? One for each person. Chen Zhao had a bad idea. No, Ruan Faxi said hurriedly. This might be the last golden apple in the world. The best way was for one person to take out 4 pieces of the same value as the golden apple and share it with the other 4. But the golden apple's value was immeasurable. It wasn't that it was immeasurable. It was that its true value was immeasurable. All the information about the golden apple came from legends. How much was the legendary golden apple's true value? No one could guarantee it. No one spoke. Even the smartest Lisa didn't know how to split it. President, you helped too. Aren't you going to split it? I won't. I didn't do much. The 5 of you can discuss it among yourselves. Chen Zhao didn't want to break their tacit understanding. If Chen Zhao participated, they'd probably give the golden apple to him directly. Then, they'd take some dispensable benefits from Chen Zhao. Even if they said they were willing, they might not be happy inside. President, we really don't know how to split it. How about this? You guys go and find 4 legendary treasures of the same value. That way, each person can take one. Chen Zhao had a very unreliable idea. Everyone shuddered at the sight. After this expedition, everyone was mentally and physically exhausted. Even Axianli, who'd loved adventures in the beginning, felt tired. Go through the same adventure for more times. Maybe they'd consider it after they'd rested enough. Anyway, the 5 of them didn't have such thoughts in the short term. Then how do we keep the golden apple? Don't ask me. You guys decide, Chen Zhao said calmly. My request is simple, Chen Zhao said calmly. Everyone must be satisfied with the distribution. Uncle, how did you know how to enter this place? I already knew this location, Chen Zhao said. Chen Zhao could have taken the golden apple by himself. But he didn't do that. After all, this was Axianli's adventure. Taking away the ultimate prize was a very immoral thing to do. Along the way, they were attacked by some creatures. But even if Chen Zhao didn't do anything, the 5 of them could easily deal with these attacks. Chen Zhao was also observing Axianli's performance in battle. Axianli's forte lay in curses. She couldn't attack directly, but it was quite useful in battle. This was Chen Zhao's first time observing Axianli in battle. He had to admit that Axianli had indeed grown a lot after training for so long. Chapter 2099. Auntie Feilai, I'm back. Feilai went up and hugged Axianli, welcome home. A group of children sprinted to Axianli. They all warmly welcomed Axianli back. Everyone was very happy. After all, Axianli had been away for more than 2 months. It's good that you're back. If someone's missing at Christmas, it'll feel like something's missing. Feilai touched Axianli's hair. Axianli, you've grown taller, haven't you? 2 months ago, Axianli still looked like a big kid. But after 2 months, Axianli's face looked more weathered, and there was a hint of seriousness between her brows. She seemed to have matured quite a bit. At night, everyone held a banquet for Axianli. Chen Zhao booked the entire restaurant. To be honest, 2 months didn't seem like a long time. But Chen Zhao and Feilai both felt that Axianli was different. She'd really grown up. She could still play with her siblings, but her gaze was completely different. In the past, she'd played with her siblings, but she was actually playing herself too. Now, playing was actually companionship. At the dining table, she knew how to put food on her siblings' plates. When she saw her siblings' food fall on their clothes, she also knew how to help them clean up. After returning to the hotel, Chen Zhao realized that the atmosphere was a bit strange. When they passed through the hotel lobby, the hotel staff were all standing straight and ready for battle. Chen Zhao was a bit surprised. They didn't look at him with caution or hostility. But their gazes were too strange. Just then, a priest in a white robe walked over. "Hello, you must be Mr. Qin." "I am." "And you are?" "We're His Majesty John's followers. His Majesty wants to see you." Old John had sent them. Why would he want to see him? Where? When? Now. "If it's convenient, please come with me." Chen Zhao turned back and looked at his family. Fei Lai nodded. "Go. Take care of the kids." "Okay." Chen Zhao left with the people from the church. No wonder the people in the hotel looked at him differently. Although the Vatican was only a religious country, it had the highest status here. For Westerners, this was a holy place. The Pope was God's messenger. Chen Zhao was a non-believer. Even though Chen Zhao had come into contact with many supernatural events. Superhumans, demons, angels, gods, and even mutants. But Chen Zhao still had no faith. In fact, Chen Zhao still believed that gods were just more powerful humans. Even other supernatural species were just a step ahead in evolution. This kind of thinking was typical of people who had no belief in God. Of course, he wouldn't deny the significance of religion. In this era, religion had changed from the initial worship to spiritual guidance. God was no longer an omnipotent and supreme being in religion. God is the spiritual sustenance of man. The car stopped in front of a church in the Vatican. Compared to the St. Peter's Cathedral that he had visited last time, this church was much more ordinary. This world is far more fragile and unstable than you think. Divine King of the Nine Heavens. Chapter 2100. With righteous people like you protecting the world, I believe in you. Don't disappoint me. Chen Zhao shirked his responsibility calmly. Chen Zhao wasn't interested in John's righteousness. He was even a bit conflicted, even though John didn't have any selfish motives. Chen Zhao was like this, or rather, everyone was like this. Everyone had a rebellious mentality. The more someone asked you to do something, the more you wouldn't want to do it. At the end of the day, Chen Zhao was just a mortal, a normal person. Moreover, he really didn't want to have anything to do with the church. The more powerful they were, the more trouble they would have. If they came to him for no reason and asked him to do something, it would be even more troublesome. So, Chen Zhao always kept his distance from them. "Sorry, Your Holiness, I have something to do. I'll be leaving now." John nodded slightly. "Go." He didn't plan on forcing Chen Zhao. At Chen Zhao's level, he couldn't force him. Chen Zhao turned and left. The next day, Chen Zhao's family left Rome. Chen Zhao's family had been playing in Rome for a few days. They'd pretty much finished all the places they wanted to play. But Chen Zhao wasn't going to another city in another country. Instead, he went back to Los Angeles. Although everyone came out to play, they would still feel tired even if they were to play. No matter how fun it was outside, it wasn't as comfortable and relaxing as home. Even the energetic children showed signs of exhaustion after a few days. Hearing that they were going home, they were all overjoyed. However, on the plane, the children turned into frosted eggplants and became listless again. When the plane landed, the kids only recovered their energy. It was Axian Li's first time at Mirror Lake Manor. The first thing Chen Zhao did was pick a room with Axian Li. Axian Li, which room do you like? I'm fine with anything. You don't have to. After all, this is your bedroom. You'll be living in this bedroom for a long time, so you have to pick a bedroom you like. I'm fine with anything, Axian Li said again. No, Chen Zhao said firmly. Nothing is fine, Chen Zhao said firmly. Everyone has their own preferences and aesthetics, so don't make do. We don't have to make do either. Axian Li was helpless but also touched. After all, Chen Zhao treated her as his real family. Then I want the first room on the 3rd floor. The room where I can see the sunrise. What about the bedroom style? Do I need to change it? Mr. Fellwood should be happy to help us modify the style. No need, I like the style of that room. Although there wasn't much to do when he got home, there were still some trivial things to do. For example, there were a few documents in Denver that Chen Zhao had to sign personally. When Stephen heard that Chen Zhao was back, he ran over to complain. After all, Chen Zhao's family had gone out to play while he was still busy. Chen Zhao's words caused him to really start shooting a new movie. Once the news of the new movie was leaked, he was completely harassed by those movie companies and could not rest. In addition to the big six, there were also small and medium-sized film companies that wanted to cooperate with him. Don't look at how those small and medium-sized film companies can't come up with so much money. However, as long as they put Stephen's name on it, it would be a piece of cake to raise enough funds. Every day, there was someone waiting for him at his door. The big six even used their own resources to pressure Stephen. Anyway, he just had to get the investment quota. The 2 blockbuster movies had made Stephen the most successful director in the world. As for Chen Zhao, he was an outsider. No matter how close he was to Stephen, he couldn't get an investment slot. This was the rule of Hollywood. Many people were envious that an outsider could earn money just by playing around. If another outsider stole money, the people in the industry would be unhappy. Although the money didn't belong to them, it was their cake. Just because they couldn't eat it didn't mean that they were willing to watch others eat it. Supernatural Organization Headquarters, is this the golden apple? Everyone surrounded the golden apple and looked at it curiously. It was a legendary treasure. One thing for sure was that the golden apple wasn't real gold. Instead, it looked like gold on the outside. From the texture, it should be the texture of a plant. I wonder what it tastes like. Wes licked his lips. Ruan Faxburn immediately moved the golden apple away. West, this is ours. Don't mess around or I'll break your teeth. Stingy. West pursed his lips. It's a pity that the golden apple couldn't be moved back. It's useless even if we moved it back. The golden apple needs 3,000 years to bear fruit. We don't have that long of a lifespan. We can wait 3,000 years. Morit's face was full of regret. To everyone, the golden apple was invaluable. But because of the long waiting time, it was of little value. Thus, while everyone felt that it was a pity, they didn't think too much about it. The one who felt the most pity was Morid. After all, he was a botanist. Plants were his specialty. If he could get the legendary plant, it would be a great help to his plant research. Just then, Chen Zhao took out a branch and tossed it before Morid. Take it. I don't know if it can survive. It'll depend on your ability. Seeing the branch, Morid's eyes brightened. He immediately grabbed it. President. I caught it on the way back at Mount Olympus, Chen Zhao said. Of course, Chen Zhao knew the value of the golden apple tree. But because he had to ensure his people's safety, he didn't have time to care about the tree. Moreover, the golden apple tree was too huge. It was even bigger than a castle. Even Chen Zhao's spatial ring couldn't fit it. So, Chen Zhao broke off a branch and brought it back. I don't have more. If you can't grow this branch, I can't do anything either. Morid, we're all waiting for you to grow the golden apple. Then we'll all have something to eat. Don't disappoint us. If you're willing to wait 3,000 years, I'll definitely grow the golden apple. Why don't you go die? If I have 3,000 years of lifespan, do I still need to eat your golden apple? How do you guys plan to split the golden apples? West asked curiously. Chen Zhao hadn't told them that Ruan Faxburn, Xianli, Kalon, Moore, and Lisa were conflicted about the golden apples. Thus, everyone was also very curious about the distribution plan. They planned to find 4 legendary treasures of the same value and then split the golden apples. Chapter 2101. President, I didn't say that. Ruan Faxben was stunned. But don't you think that's the best way? Chen Zhao said matter-of-factly. How about we cut the golden apple into 5 pieces? They didn't want to cut the golden apple into 5 pieces either. Even if they didn't know what the golden apple was for. But it was still a legendary treasure. The headquarters started a welcome party again. Chen Zhao and West stood on the balcony on the 2nd floor. How's Magri Modric? He hasn't done anything yet, West said. What's he doing? Chen Zhao frowned. I don't know, but he and his subordinates haven't been idle these days, West said. Looks like we need to give him some warnings, Chen Zhao said, narrowing his eyes. Chen Zhao looked at the two. He didn't ask them to come for a vacation. President, after Christmas, we plan to go to the 3rd red mission. Have you decided which red mission? I'm still working on it. After all, it wasn't easy to find a suitable mission among the many red missions. Magri Modric had been under a lot of pressure recently. Because of his greed, he'd offended a terrifying expert. If he hadn't been rash, things wouldn't have been so unpleasant. But now, he had no other choice. Either he attacked the target. Otherwise, he would ignore the mission given by the powerhouse. Magri Modric's final choice was of course to complete that mission. After all, Dragon Tiger Mountain had a lot of people and was extremely powerful. But they were still a righteous sect. Even if he became enemies with them, he would at most get a warrant from the spiritual world. Modric, on the other hand, wasn't afraid of this kind of arrest warrant. Within the Sacred Flames sect, who did not have a few wanted posters on them. But if that person attacked, it wouldn't be as simple as a normal warrant. He would really kill them. But their target, Yanggua, hadn't shown up much. He hadn't shown himself much, which made him feel a little helpless. Yanggua had always been in the headquarters of the psionic team. Magri was arrogant and even looked down on the psionic team. But the psionic team was backed by the government. So no matter how arrogant Magri Modric was, he couldn't directly attack a secret government department. Lord Protector, we found out that our target rented an apartment on the 5th Avenue Street. According to the residents of the apartment building we visited, the target didn't rent the apartment for himself. The neighbors said that it was an Asian who looked sick. Magri Modric raised an eyebrow. Are you sure this information is true? Not a trap. No, before we came, the Asian was already living there, so even if it is a trap, it is not for us. Investigate more carefully. Just as his men left the room, Magri Modric suddenly felt a gust of cold wind behind him. Who is it? Magri Modric suddenly turned around, but a large hand grabbed his face and covered his eyes. Mr. Magri Modric, you seem to be slacking on my mission. It seems that I need to find someone else to entrust to. Magri Modric turned pale with fright. He remembered the voice. Of course he remembered, the owner of this voice had given him nightmarish memories. Recently, he couldn't even sleep peacefully. He didn't even dare to turn off the lights. It was as if this person was observing him in the dark. Sir. I can explain. I didn't slack off, Magri Modric exclaimed. Really? But why haven't you made any progress on my mission? Chen Zhao asked in a low voice. Do you think that stalling for time is effective on me? No. I don't think so. Really? Then explain to me why you still haven't done anything. It's because that person hasn't shown himself. He's been hiding in the psionic team's headquarters, so we can't do anything. But we found out that he rented a house outside. It seems to be for an injured person. Are you planning to use that person to lure out the target? That's right. Magri Modric asked carefully, Sir, are you satisfied with this arrangement? Sure, Chen Zhao said. Give me the results as soon as possible. If you haven't completed the mission before I come to find you next time, I won't just come to talk to you. Chen Zhao instantly disappeared before Magri Modric's eyes. Magri Modric's expression was solemn. It wasn't that he hadn't thought about resisting. But Chen Zhao had left too deep an impression on him last time. That kind of terrifying power really made people unable to muster the will to resist. He didn't know about Chen Zhao's bad taste. He found that he quite liked playing this kind of mysterious role. Those fish have taken the bait, Wistana said to Yanghua. Someone's asking about the house you rented. Yes, after waiting for so long, they've finally taken the bait. They're really patient. Are you confident that you can catch all of them? Not really. Wistana shook her head. I've investigated their background. They're from Europe. Apparently, they're very famous in the spiritual world. They're called the Holy Flame Sect. Holy Flame Sect. The corner of Yanggua's eye twitched. So it's those bastards. You know them. After all, Wistana could only be considered a marginal figure in the spiritual world. Her understanding of the world had only been obtained in the past half a year. This Holy Flame Sect is a place of evil in the spiritual world. They do all kinds of dirty things. Can we deal with them? If it's the full power of the Sacred Flame Sect, our psionic ability team is still slightly weak. However, it's impossible for them to come all the way here. Otherwise, the government would definitely be furious, Yanghua said. I reckon that they've accepted some mercenary mission to find trouble with me. Can we be ruthless? Wistana asked. If we can, Yanghua said. Of course, it's best if we can leave one or two alive. Won't they take revenge? Why would they? Plus, do you think the Celestial Masters sect behind me is afraid of them? Hearing Yanghua's confident reply, Wistana heaved a sigh of relief. Right now, the psionic team was too weak. Everything had to be handled carefully. God King of the Nine Skies. Chapter 2102. To a psionic ability team, a mid-level religious organization like the Sacred Flame Sect was a colossus to them. Even now, Wistana was filled with respect for the spiritual world. Imagine being in North America, the region with the least amount of magic in the world. Yet, organizations like Qin Zhao and the Supernatural Organization had appeared. If it was Europe, where magic was at its peak, how powerful would they be? Actually, Wistana still didn't have a correct understanding of the spiritual world. She always felt that Qin Zhao wasn't a top spiritualist. Because this was North America, there couldn't be a top spiritualist. Just like soccer, no one felt that there was a Mr. Soccer in the soccer world. That was Wistana's mentality. Hey, Yang, you haven't contacted me for a few days. Chen Zhao called Yang Guo. Chen Zhao's tone was deliberately casual, as if he didn't know the truth at all. Are you sure you need me to send you information? Even if it's meaningless information. Little Yang, don't you respect your own promises? Chen Zhao, you're the one who made things difficult for me first. Yang Guo's tone was somewhat resentful. I made things difficult for you first. Don't forget, you were the one who started the bet, not me. You can't say that I made things difficult for you after you lost, right? That's not very kind of you. My promise is to do everything within my power and not violate my moral bottom line. However, your request has already touched my bottom line. Do I need to consider your bottom line when I bet with you? Do I need to check your hobbies? Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. Anyway, that's my attitude. You can order me, but you can't criticize me. Whatever. Since you're like this, our relationship ends here. Chen Zhao's tone suddenly turned cold. You don't need to give me any more information. You can do whatever you want, but traitors need to be punished. Chen Zhao, don't threaten me. Even if you don't tell me, I'll tell you anyway. With that, Yang Guo hung up. Chen Zhao was unhappy, but he wouldn't do anything. No, in fact, he'd already done that. If Yang Guo didn't have a good elder, Chen Zhao would have killed him long ago. Night. Chen Zhao stood before an apartment building. Chen Zhao subconsciously evaluated the rent of the apartment building. The rent here was quite expensive. However, Chen Zhao realized that all the residents in the building had disappeared. 50 people had gathered on the 20th floor of the apartment building. Everyone was a spiritualist. There were also spiritualists lying in ambush on every level. There were more than 80 of them. This was a trap. Chen Zhao raised an eyebrow. It seemed that the psionic team wasn't useless after all. After all, with the government's intelligence resources, it wasn't strange for them to discover Magri Modric's actions. In addition, Wistana had recruited more than 80 people from the original team that only had a dozen people. It seemed that their strength had increased tremendously. Just then, Chen Zhao realized that Modric was already at the bottom of the apartment building. Chen Zhao picked up the phone and called Magri Modric. Magri Modric. Who are you? Modric looked at the unfamiliar caller ID. I am your employer. Sir. What can I do for you? Hearing that it was Chen Zhao, Modric's tone immediately changed. It's a trap. What? What do you mean? The apartment building you found is a trap. There are 50 spiritualists lying in ambush. What? Magri Modric was shocked. Then what should I do? Listen to my commands. Modric thought about it. He felt that since it was a trap, they should just retreat. There was no need to take the risk. However, Chen Zhao didn't want them to retreat. Modric didn't dare to say that either. Chen Zhao said into the phone, management is on the 5th floor. There are surveillance cameras for the entire building. There's an enemy there. Send 2 people to climb up from the outer wall. The spiritualist in charge of surveillance isn't strong. It's not hard to deal with. Chen Zhao observed that there were many eyes floating around the spiritualist in charge of surveillance in the control room on the 5th floor. These eyes were looking at all the images. It could be seen that this spiritualist could receive all the images at the same time and process them with his brain. These eyes were also on every corridor on the 5th floor. Chen Zhao explained the situation on the 5th floor. There are no surveillance points in the ventilation ducts on the 5th floor. You can move through the ducts and enter the surveillance room directly. Modric was a bit surprised. How did Chen Zhao know the layout of the entire building? Even if he had spies in the psionic team, he shouldn't know so much, right? But Chen Zhao seemed to be the person in charge. He actually knew every single point clearly. This meant that Chen Zhao might be in the building. He also had super senses. This made Modric even more afraid to play any tricks. Chen Zhao also knew what Magri Modric had done in the past. For example, he wanted to start a fight between the supernatural organization and the psionic team. But he pretended not to know. Be it the supernatural organization or the psionic ability team, they all noticed Magri Modric's actions. Both sides tacitly pretended not to know about this matter. They didn't suspect him either. Of course, this was also because Modric's actions were too obvious and crude. He found someone to attack the psionic team and then left a mark of the supernatural organization at the scene. No one would fall for such a crude method. The psionic team and the supernatural organization were competitors, but such a simple method of provocation couldn't be used as evidence. The person in charge of surveillance on the 5th floor was ambushed, but he still sounded the alarm before he was attacked. "It's done," Chen Zhao said. "Their eyes have already been taken care of," but he sounded the alarm before he was attacked. "Now, 3 people are coming down in the elevator. Cut the elevator rope." Boom! After a huge sound, the elevator crashed down from the top floor. "Okay, have your people occupy the surveillance room," Chen Zhao said. "Also, activate the building's fire system. Fire could create chaos. Sometimes, water could do the same. Especially when Chen Zhao controlled the power of water. The delivery elevator is working. You don't need to climb up with your legs," Chen Zhao said. "Of course, if you think this is a warm-up before the battle, pretend I didn't say anything." Chapter 2103. Damn it. How did the Sacred Fire sect know so much about our setup? Wistana's face was filled with anger. She thought her setup was perfect. She had thought of every detail. Even her subordinates might not have known everything. However, the result made her both shocked and angry. All of her arrangements had lost their effect. Instead, the Sacred Fire sect used her setup to find loopholes. News came from outside that the psionic team had lost a few people. Although it was only a few people, it made their arrangement even more flawed. "Is there a mole among us?" Wistana asked with a serious expression. "Wistana, it's not a mole. Someone on the other side has super perception," Yonghua said. Yonghua said, "As long as it's within a certain range, almost no action can escape the enemy's eyes. At this time, we can no longer rely on our previous arrangements to win. We can only change our strategy at any time. This way, even if the enemy has super perception, they won't be able to react immediately." "But, what should we do?" Wistana was troubled. Blitz looked at Yonghua. "Yang, can you temporarily take over command?" Yonghua thought about it and nodded. "I'll try." "Yang, I'm counting on you. This started because of me." "I'm responsible," Yonghua said seriously. First, the enemy activated the sprinkler system. "Is this to create chaos?" Blitz asked. "It could also be a spiritualist with water magic or water talent. It's best if we send a water or ice spiritualist to deal with it," Yonghua said. "Why not the earth element? That should be able to restrain the enemy's water element. My Grandmaster once said that in a disadvantageous situation, we don't need to turn defeat into victory. Instead, we need to ensure that we don't lose in every detail," Yonghua said. They heard Yonghua say that his Grandmaster had said that. No one had any objections. In the water element's home field, even if it is restrained by the earth element, the power that the earth element can display in this building is still very limited. So, in the end, we might not be able to defeat the enemy's water element spiritualist. If we also send one or a few water element spiritualists, in a situation where both sides have the home field advantage, the enemy's home field advantage will be gone. At least we can guarantee that we won't lose. Everyone heard this and immediately felt that it made sense. After all, these were the words of Yangguo's grandmaster. Even if Zhang Tianyi didn't show his face, Yangguo's name was still on his lips. This was enough to intimidate all the spiritualists present. The other side doesn't have the advantage in numbers. Even if their average individual strength is stronger than ours, it doesn't mean that they will definitely win. Our advantage in numbers means that we have more flexibility in our arrangements. They actually gave up on the defensive formation and scattered all of their members. To Qin Zhao's surprise, the commander was now Yangguo. On top of that, his commands coincidentally restrained his advantage as a spectator. It had to be said that Yangguo's command was just right. The chaotic and collapsing situation was once again stabilized by Yangguo. Yangguo's commands were of a high standard. In a situation where they were completely unaware of the Sacred Flame's sex strength, they had actually managed to arrange everything so neatly. Moreover, Yangguo's arrangements were very flexible. After giving up the advantage of the terrain, he made full use of his familiarity with the terrain. When one of the front lines was in danger, the other front lines could provide support at any time. The smartest thing about Yangguo was that he didn't seek victory, but stability. As long as the situation was stabilized, the Sacred Flame sect would be helpless. After all, as long as the police or firefighters arrived, the Sacred Flame sect would have to retreat. Unless the Sacred Flame sect wanted to cross their bottom line. Qin Zhao was considering if he should attack in secret. He was confident that he could do some things for the Sacred Flame sect while hiding his identity. However, the risk of doing so was very high. Once his identity was exposed, it would mean that the supernatural organization would start a war. No matter how weak the psionic team was, they were still a subordinate department of the government. Qin Zhao was the kind of person who didn't want to fight openly but wanted to scheme behind the scenes. In all kinds of entertainment, he would be the worst type. Of course, reality wasn't like that. The little demon in Qin Zhao's heart started to stir. Should I interfere or not? Just then, a few water spiritualists from the Sacred Flame sect met the water spiritualists from the psionic team. The two sides fought back and forth. There might be a difference in strength. However, because both sides had the home advantage, they were very difficult to deal with. Moreover, water wasn't a magic system that could be decided in a short period of time. As a result, the people from the Sacred Flame sect were dragged there. This also meant that the Sacred Flame sect, who didn't have an advantage in numbers, had even fewer people. The psionic team's strength was uneven, but there were still some experts. These experts had a clear goal too. They wanted to find the lone Sacred Flame sect member to fight. If the Sacred Flame sect spiritualist was weaker, then he would take the opportunity to get rid of him and weaken his opponent's abilities. If the spiritualist was strong, then they would stall for time. The weaker people from the psionic team formed teams and moved together. Qin Zhao was a bystander, so he could see the whole situation clearly. But Modric didn't know. It was like a real-time strategy game. Both sides' maps were dark. On one side, there was a master strategist like Yangguo who could command on the spot. On the other side, Modric clearly wasn't as good. Modric's only hope was Qin Zhao. But even if Qin Zhao commanded on the spot, even if he opened the entire map, he still didn't know how to change the situation. Because Qin Zhao wasn't a strategist. In the past few battles with the supernatural organization, Chen Zhao found his own opponents. His subordinates were given to West to command. Modric kept asking on the phone what to do next. "You piece of trash," Chen Zhao yelled at Modric. "I already told you the current situation. Can't you think of a solution yourself?" "You piece of trash," Chen Zhao yelled at Magri Modric over the phone. "I already told you the current situation. Can't you think of a solution yourself?" Modric was depressed. "You piece of trash," he yelled at Modric. "I already told you the current situation. Can't you think of a solution yourself?" Magri Modric was very depressed. Weren't they having a good conversation just now? Why did they suddenly stop giving him orders? Chapter 2104. As expected, after Chen Zhao gave them some pointers, as expected, Magri Modric brought his men towards Wistana. However, such an obvious weakness, how could Yang Guo, as a tactical expert, not take advantage of it? So, Wistana was bait. When Magri Modric brought his men to Wistana's front, Wistana's eyes lit up. The spiritualists who were originally scattered around immediately surrounded him. Moreover, Wistana was always protected by a tank. This caused Modric and his men to be unable to capture Wistana in an instant. "You are Magri Modric, the guardian of the Sacred Flame sect, the person in charge of Norway." Yang Guo looked at Magri Modric. "You should know who I am, so I won't introduce myself. Now, tell me, who asked you to deal with me?" "You think I'll tell you?" Magri sneered. "Are you still going to put up a stubborn resistance?" Yang Guo smiled at Magri Modric. "I don't need to fight you to the death. I just need to wait for the mortals to arrive. Are you trying to use ordinary people to threaten us?" "Of course not. That's our bottom line, but it's also your bottom line. If you fight us in front of a large number of ordinary people, you'll be the ones in trouble. So, this battle can only be said to be a draw." Just as Magri Modric had said, this was their common bottom line, a line that no one could cross. Yang Guo was silent for a moment. He looked up at Magri Modric. "You might not be able to buy that much time." "Why? Do you think you can deal with us in such a short time?" "We can't do it." "Then how did you make it so that I couldn't buy that much time?" "Because the place you are in right now is my senior brother's bedroom. He doesn't like people disturbing him," Yang Guo said. "Senior?" Magri Modric suddenly had a bad feeling. Then, a terrifying pressure came from behind him. Modric turned his head abruptly and saw an Asian man standing behind him. The Asian was staring at Magri Modric with a cold gaze. It was none other than Yifengmiao, whom Chen Zhao had defeated earlier. After being defeated, Yifengmiao's strength increased by leaps and bounds. Right now, Yifengmiao was truly the number one of his generation. Previously, he had already caused some seniors to be unable to match him. Right now, he could make most of the old seniors feel helpless. When Magri Modric sensed the terrifying aura from Yifengmiao, he even thought of the person who brought him terrifying memories. "Go. Retreat." Magri Modric made a prompt decision. But Yifengmiao simply raised her hand and made a grabbing motion. Immortal binding rope. In an instant, Magri Modric and a dozen of his men were immediately restrained. It was too fast, so fast that it was suffocating. Magri Modric was definitely not a weakling. There was no lack of experts among his subordinates. But he couldn't even block a single attack from Yifengmiao. Wistana and the psionic team members at the scene all sucked in a cold breath. Too strong, this man called Yifengmiao was simply too strong. Wistana looked at Yifengmiao. If he joined the psionic team, he wondered if he could fight against Chen Zhao. Wistana finally felt the possibility of defeating Chen Zhao from Yifengmiao. Even if Yifeng Miao alone wasn't enough, the psionic team might be enough. Yang, take them away. Also, find someone to help me fix this place tomorrow. Got it. Yang Guo shrugged. To be honest, Yifeng Miao's advancement was too terrifying. If it were him just now, he definitely wouldn't be any better than Magri Modrich. This was the difference in levels. Any schemes would be meaningless. Mr. Yi, thank you for your help, Wistana said respectfully. You're welcome. Yang is my junior. He's also taken care of me in LA these days. I can do what I can. Yang Guo sensed Wistana's intentions and immediately said, Wistana, let's take them back first. Yang Guo clearly didn't want Yifeng Miao to participate in this messy situation. Right now, Magri Modrich's face was ashen. He didn't think that he would be defeated in a magical desert like North America. But he also felt that it was natural. After all, the people who captured him were from the Eastern Dragon Tiger Mountain Celestial Masters sect. That was a top-notch sect and inheritance with a long history. Therefore, it was natural that their disciples were strong. The only thing that they couldn't accept was the fact that they had lost instantly. Yifeng Miao gave him a very similar feeling to that person. That faintly discernible oppressive aura, as well as an unimaginable power. They weren't enemies that could win with numbers. Magri Modric couldn't imagine what kind of power was needed to defeat him. There were still many monsters in the world that made him tremble. For example, the ridiculously strong supernatural organization. There were enemies in that organization that he couldn't do anything about. Now, there were a few more. Bring them all back to the headquarters, Yang Guo said. Chen Zhao was very helpless. When he saw Yifeng Miao attack, he couldn't do anything anymore. He didn't care about Yifeng Miao's power, but if he attacked, Yifeng Miao wasn't weak either. He could definitely recognize his power. It would be even more troublesome then. Fortunately, Chen Zhao didn't need to worry that Magri would confess to him. After all, Magri didn't know his identity either. This made Chen Zhao feel relieved. If they really fought, he would definitely win. But his power would definitely make the government wary. In the end, he wouldn't be as relaxed as he was now. Either he would be the government's dog, or he would be monitored by the government. After all, Chen Zhao was a walking nuclear warhead now. Nevertheless, Chen Zhao still followed the psionic team until they returned to the headquarters. Only then did Chen Zhao give up. Chen Zhao didn't want to get too close to the psionic team's headquarters. After all, he'd caused a ruckus last time. The psionic team might have made some arrangements against him. These arrangements might not be able to do anything to him. However, Chen Zhao might be exposed. Chen Zhao started to regret asking Magri Modric. At the same time, he felt that he'd made a strategic mistake. He'd underestimated the psionic team and Yang Guo's abilities. Of course, there was no point in regretting now. Just then, Chen Zhao received an unfamiliar call. Subconsciously, he felt that it was Wistana calling to test him. Chapter 2105. Hello, who is it? Chen Zhao answered. Mr. Chen, where are you now? Who are you? Mr. Chen, can't you recognize my voice? Miss Wistana. Chen Zhao asked, knowing the answer. Mr. Chen, do you know that we caught people from the Holy Fire sect? Oh. Chen Zhao's answer was still flat. Mr. Chen, you don't seem surprised at all. You know that the Holy Fire sect is in LA. Do you think I can't know or shouldn't know? Do you think that the supernatural organization's intelligence is inferior to yours? Mr. Chen, I'll get straight to the point. The people we caught said that the supernatural organization hired them. Oh. I see. I'll go to your headquarters now. If you want to confront me, I'll be happy to stand in front of the judge. Wistana wasn't really confident. Although Magri claimed that the supernatural organization hired them, she wasn't sure if Magri was trying to get away. But she wasn't sure if Magri Modrich was purposely accusing the supernatural organization in order to escape. Wistana thought that she was in the right, so she wasn't afraid to confront Qin Zhao. She thought that she was in the right, so she wasn't afraid to confront Qin Zhao. Even if it was proven that Qin Zhao and the supernatural organization had nothing to do with it, it had nothing to do with them. Qin Zhao didn't know what Magri Modrich had said. However, he definitely couldn't back down now. Qin Zhao went home and drove a car to the headquarters of the psionic team. Many people in the team glared at Qin Zhao. After all, Qin Zhao had given them quite a bit of mental and physical trauma last time. Blitz walked up to Qin Zhao. His emotions couldn't be seen from his expression. However, he definitely didn't like Qin Zhao. Mr. Qin, please follow me. Qin Zhao was brought to a round room. Everyone in the room was the backbone of the psionic team. Yang Guo was also included. Yang Guo immediately tensed up. He wasn't sure if Qin Zhao would expose him in front of everyone. No matter how unwilling he was at the time. After all, he had been a traitor once. However, Qin Zhao clearly didn't plan on exposing him. Magri Modric and a few of his men were tied up tightly. Other than their heads, the rest of their bodies were like mummies. Qin Zhao glanced at Magri Modric. Mr. Qin, do you know them? He knows. Qin Zhao pointed at Magri Modric. They're the ones who said the supernatural organization hired them. I'm the one you hired, one of Modric's men immediately shouted. Mr. Qin, do you have any explanation now? Wistana looked at him proudly. Qin Zhao ignored Wistana's question and walked up to the Holy Fire sect disciple. You said I hired you, right? Qin Zhao realized that they didn't recognize him at all. They just wanted to bite. That's right, I remember you. It's you, hiss. Qin Zhao stretched out his hand and tore the disciple in half. What are you doing? Everyone cried out in alarm and got into a fighting stance. Mr. Qin, you better give me a clear explanation. Otherwise, I can only assume that you're trying to silence me. Qin Zhao didn't care about the attitude of the people around him. He walked up to the second Sacred Fire Order follower. You also said I hired you. That's right. It's you. The second Sacred Fire Order follower gave the same answer after a slight hesitation. Stop. Yang Guo charged at Qin Zhao, trying to stop him from killing. But Qin Zhao turned around instantly and grabbed Yang Guo's arm. Then, he slapped Yang Guo's chin. Yang Guo spun a few times in the air and landed heavily on the ground. He was heavily injured. Qin Zhao turned around and grabbed the disciple again. Hiss, another was dismembered. Qin Zhao walked up to the third disciple. You also said I hired you. No. I didn't. The Guardian told us that. He said that if we were captured, we should let the psionic power team and the supernatural organization fight. That way, we would have a chance to escape, the third Holy Fire sect disciple said in fear. Only then did Qin Zhao let the disciple go. He turned to Wistana. Miss Wistana, if you really want to fight, just say it now. I can kill you and everyone here legitimately. I'm tired of this way of interaction. Mr. Qin. We were tricked by them too. Tricked? It's such an obvious lie. You're telling me you were tricked. Do you think I'm easy to bully? Wistana didn't expect Qin Zhao to be so tough. Did I make you think this way somehow? Qin Zhao walked toward Wistana. Seeing Qin Zhao's fierce look, a few spiritualists immediately went up to stop him. But Qin Zhao swept across with a leg sweep. Qin Zhao sent everyone flying. Wistana's pupils contracted. She wasn't worried about her own safety. She was shocked that Qin Zhao was still so strong. Everyone present was the backbone of the psionic team. Every one of them was very strong, but before Qin Zhao, they were as weak as babies. Wistana stood before Qin Zhao. She could feel the pressure from Qin Zhao. "Do you like to use this method to test my bottom line?" Qin Zhao asked. "Mr. Qin, this is a misunderstanding." Slap, Qin Zhao slapped Wistana. "Sorry, this is also a misunderstanding." Wistana covered her face and stared at Qin Zhao angrily. Qin Zhao glanced at the patterns peeking out from Wistana's sleeves. He put his hand on Wistana's shoulder. "Be careful. Your secret technique might not be effective." Wistana's body trembled visibly. Qin Zhao's words had many meanings. It was precisely this kind of unclear words that made people think a lot more. Qin Zhao walked up to Modric. Modric was also very regretful. He should have thought of this long ago. The supernatural organization was so arrogant and crazy. Without such a strong leader, how could they have such strong subordinates? She'd actually tried to drag him down. She was asking for trouble. "You're the one who wants to drag me down with such a childish lie." Qin Zhao looked down at Magri Modric condescendingly. "Sir. I'm sorry. No need to apologize. I don't accept apologies." Qin Zhao suddenly grabbed Magri's neck. No one could stop Qin Zhao's violent actions. Stop Qin Zhao from silencing them. Chapter 2106. Just like that, Qin Zhao killed them in front of everyone. No one could stop him. Qin Zhao acted as if he'd done something insignificant. He did it so casually. The psionic team members along the way didn't stop Qin Zhao. After joining, they'd all heard that Qin Zhao was a fierce person. The second batch was clearly not as strong as the first. They knew how strong the previous members were. Even the previous members had been taught a lesson by Qin Zhao. They didn't think they could fight against Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao strolled away as if there was no one around him. Qin Zhao didn't expect them to have no suspicions. In fact, no matter what decision or action Qin Zhao made, they would be suspicious. Even if Qin Zhao kept Magri Modric, wouldn't they be suspicious? That was impossible. Since they were enemies. Even if Qin Zhao didn't do anything, they would think that he was guilty. Rather than that, he might as well do whatever he wanted. The next day, Qin Zhao received an unexpected call. It was from Liang. "Mr. Qin, come to the headquarters of the Anti-Terrorism Security Department." Qin Zhao frowned. He really wasn't familiar with Liang. They weren't even friends. As the former head of the Anti-Terrorism Security Department, Qin Zhao and Liang had a conflict before. However, after Liang left his post and was promoted, their relationship miraculously improved. Although Qin Zhao didn't have direct contact with Liang, they still had some business cooperation. Everyone's identity and status were different, so they had different ways of thinking. Liang was the best example of this. As the famous saying went, there were no eternal friends in the world, only eternal interests. Of course, Qin Zhao and Liang weren't friends. But that didn't stop them from being allies. Liang used his position to provide Qin Zhao with a lot of useful information. However, Qin Zhao didn't understand why Liang called him to the Anti-Terrorism Security Department. To make peace with Mansari. He should be very clear that this was simply impossible. Because to put it bluntly, it was a power struggle between them. Mansari wanted to control the supernatural organization and Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao obviously wanted the department to be independent. The two had irreconcilable conflicts. Unless Mansari could advance in a short time like Liang, otherwise, they would never be able to resolve their conflict peacefully. Therefore, there was no point in trying to make peace. Chen Zhao wouldn't back down, even if it was Liang's request. Furthermore, Liang wasn't shameless enough to force him to back down. However, he still had to give them permission to go to the anti-terrorism department. Liang had given him face. Whether Liang would give him face or not depended on Liang's thoughts. If Liang thought that he could control Chen Zhao after being promoted, Chen Zhao didn't mind teaching him a lesson. Chen Zhao went to the anti-terrorism security department. Most of the people here were strangers. It was obvious that Mansari had cleaned up the place after he took over. He even helped his own people get promoted. The current anti-terrorism security department had already undergone a major change. Chen Zhao walked past the office area and knocked on an office door. "Come in." He heard Liang's voice. When Chen Zhao pushed the door open, he saw Lian and Mansari sitting inside. But because of where they were sitting, Chen Zhao didn't plan to continue. Chen Zhao stood there with his hands behind his back. "Mr. Chen, aren't you going to sit?" Mansari smiled. He'd purposely arranged this seat. Liang was his superior in name. Although he wasn't directly in charge, he still couldn't offend him. His seat was similar to Liang's. They were both slightly higher than the third seat. The remaining seat was naturally for Chen Zhao, who'd arrived last. Even if it was just a small trick, Mansari would still feel happy. This kind of behavior seems very childish. But it was also Mansari's test for Chen Zhao. Liang was Mansari's superior in name. Mansari was also Chen Zhao's superior in name. However, Mansari clearly didn't want an uncontrollable subordinate like Chen Zhao. That was why their conflict was so intense. Chen Zhao glanced at Mansari casually. Then he stood there, not planning to sit down. "Mr. Lian, if you're here to make peace with us, then forget about it. I think you should understand where our conflict comes from. I'm not here to mediate. I'm not interested in your relationship, but I hope you can cooperate sincerely this time." "I also think we should be more sincere," Mansari said. "Both sides should show their sincerity." Chen Zhao stood there and didn't speak. He watched the two put on a show. Mansari and Liang both felt embarrassed. Only then did they stop. "Chen, we've already found out that there's a huge threat in the Bermuda Triangle. It's a legendary demon. There's a large number of demons there. This isn't just a problem of the ocean. It's a problem of the entire country, so I hope you can let go of your prejudice. I think Minister Mansari doesn't need me. He's formed his own team and it's quite strong. With his team, he probably won't need the supernatural organization. Chen, I know about Mansari's team. They're not strong. They can only handle small things at most. Big things like this still need the supernatural organization. Of course, it can also be two teams working together," Mansari added. "I think they can create different sparks when they work together." "I'm not interested," Chen Zhao rejected without hesitation. "Why?" Mansari asked sarcastically. "Are you afraid that the supernatural organization will be overshadowed by a new psionic team? No matter what you say, the supernatural organization will never work together with a psionic team. That's my principle. What if I say it's an order?" Liang threatened. Bang! Chen Zhao slammed his palms on the table before Liang. "Mr. Liang, please repeat what you just said." Liang's face twitched. "Forgive me, Chen. I apologize for what I said earlier. I forgive you, Chen Zhao snorted. Chen Zhao was also reminding him not to forget why he could level up. If Chen Zhao and the supernatural organization hadn't pulled him back at the last moment, Leong wouldn't have been able to level up. Now, Leong would be lucky if he wasn't killed like a bug, let alone leveling up. I still say the same thing. The supernatural organization will never work together with a psionic team. Not in the past, not now, and not in the future. Chapter 2107. Let's not talk about whether the psionic team would stab us in the back. Let's talk about who contributed more and who contributed less. How would we distribute the merits? That's why I'm so against it. You're all under the Anti-Terrorism Security Department. Mansari's tone turned cold. Sure, we can work together, but I want the right to command and have absolute decision-making power. Chen Zhao looked at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao looked at the devil is beside you. 02106 Leon's little abacus. Please wait a moment. After the content is .d, please refresh the page to get the latest. Chapter 2108. Portia was speechless about Chen Zhao's lifestyle. Chen Zhao spent most of his time in the sun. Occasionally, she heard that he received a call from a client and went to see them. However, Chen Zhao had never brought her to see a client. Nevertheless, she knew that Chen Zhao charged at least $1 million each time. Chen Zhao didn't care about this at all. To Chen Zhao, these numbers that could drive Portia crazy weren't even as much as his income for a day of doing nothing. The rest of the time, Chen Zhao basically brought his kids out to shop. Because it was almost Christmas, Chen Zhao and his family had many things to buy. Feilai's coastal rescue team's work had become easier. Because of the cold weather, the number of tourists at Angel Beach decreased sharply. Of course, this also reduced the number of missions for the coastal rescue team. Most people could enjoy a happy Christmas in peace. So, Feilai also went on a shopping spree. Portia's biggest daily workload wasn't shopping with the family. Instead, she was packing up the things they'd bought in the living room. After lunch, Chen Zhao's family enjoyed a peaceful and satisfying time. Portia, has Zephyr contacted you recently? Chen Zhao asked. She's called me once. Portia took some time to reply. Boss, if Zephyr runs into trouble, will you help? If it's convenient, Chen Zhao said. After all, it's hard to find an assistant as excellent as her. Boss, don't you think it's too much to say that in front of me? If you complain less during work, you'll be pretty good too. But as your assistant, my work is like hard labor every day. But Zephyr never complains. She's an assassin. She might be thinking about how to kill you. Portia didn't mind making fun of Zephyr's past identity at all. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. Zephyr's past career was much more noble than an assassin's. It could even be said that she maintained world peace. Zephyr was cold on the outside but warm on the inside. On the surface, she kept everyone at arm's length, including Chen Zhao. She was only slightly nicer to Portia. But in reality, Zephyr was a person filled with a sense of justice. Moreover, Zephyr was very attentive. She had a completely different personality from the bulky Portia. Of course, this was also related to Fervora's past career. As a dragon slayer, if one was not careful and patient enough, the success or failure of an operation would not be the only thing that mattered. At the same time, he could also put himself and his teammates in danger. The knocks on the door woke Morocco Bick up. He had been on the run for a month. Ever since he was released, he had been constantly being hunted down. He didn't know who was chasing after him. However, he was very clear about one thing. If he was caught, he would be dead. Morocco Bic immediately escaped from the back door of the room. He's in the motel room. This was also where Morocco Piccolo stayed most of the time. But just as he walked out of the back door, he heard footsteps. Morocco Piccolo didn't even think as he charged into the dense forest behind him. Morocco Bic turned around and looked at the people behind him. It was obvious that these people were members of a gang. At that moment, Morocco Bic suddenly started to miss his life in prison. However, he suddenly thought of what happened in Los Angeles' 7th prison and suddenly lost his thoughts. Recently, horrible things had been happening in 7th prison. Morocco Bic didn't know who was chasing after him. He had offended too many people outside. Just like that, Morocco Bic ran for his life with his chaotic thoughts. But he was too tired. He didn't eat anything today. Yesterday, he went to a Burger King and only ate a leftover burger. This was the daily life of a desperate man like him. He couldn't even compare to a homeless person. Really, a desperate man wasn't the kind of person who could go around freely like in the movies. Most of the desperate men were in a precarious situation and lived in constant fear. Most of the time, they didn't even dare to go under the sun. And Morocco Bic didn't just eat little, he didn't even have time to sleep. In the past week, he didn't sleep more than 12 hours. In other words, on average, he slept less than 2 hours a day. Morocco Bic's stamina started to run out. The footsteps behind him were getting closer and closer, but Morocco Bic's consciousness was getting blurry. Finally, Morocco Bic felt a strong and powerful body pushing him to the ground. It was a bearded man who was even bigger than him. Then, Morocco Bic fainted. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself lying on the cold and wet floor. The room was a bit empty. There was only one table, and a big bald man was sitting in front of it, wolfing down food. Morocco Bic recognized the man. The underground king of King Morgary of the Wild Boar. Morocco Bic had seen Morgary before. But Morgary had never seen him before. Morocco Bic knew very well that he had no contact with King Morgary of the Wild Boar. So, he didn't understand why he had been captured by this man. Morgary stuffed a 3-layered beef burger into his mouth, chewed a few times, and swallowed. Then, he stood up and walked to Morocco Bic. "Damn bastard, do you know how much manpower I spent to catch you? How much time I wasted? You made me, the underground king of lose face. I actually used 23 days to catch you." Morocco Bic was so scared that he moved to the corner. "Mr. Morgary, I didn't offend you. I was asked by someone to do it. I promised my friend that I would let him see you in 3 days, but he came back from a trip abroad, and he still hasn't seen you. You've made my promise worthless," Morgary said angrily. Morocco Bic started to worry again. Who wanted to capture him? At this moment, the door to the room opened and a figure walked in. Morocco Bic's terrified emotions suddenly calmed down. Why is it him? Chen Zhao. His former cellmate. Chen Zhao's arrival caused Morgary to go up and give him a warm hug. Chen Zhao and Morgary almost never contacted each other. Chen Zhao and Morgary would only send each other a message during holidays. In Morgary's heart, Chen Zhao was the person he trusted the most. Perhaps the only person he could trust. He also kept a good distance. They were both silently watching each other's growth and personal development. Morgary, next time, greet me differently. M. Chapter 2109. Chen. No, Mr. Chen, it's me, Morocco Piccolo. Do you remember me? It's me. Chen Zhao turned his head to look at Morocco Piccolo. I remember, how could I not remember? I remember people who owe me money very clearly. I paid your bail before, and I said that it's not money for you. It's a loan. You have to pay me back, but it's been so long and you haven't paid me back. You even went to jail during your bail period, so the bail was confiscated. Morocco Piccolo's eyes were wide open. Morocco Piccolo's face was full of awkwardness. Chen, leave it to me. Morguri walked up to Morocco Piccolo. Do you want to feed the sharks or the crocodiles? Morguri wasn't someone who only knew how to fight and kill. He'd experienced the ups and downs of life, so his life experience had given him the wisdom to deal with all kinds of things. Chen Zhao clearly didn't plan to really kill Morocco Piccolo. However, threats were clearly very effective against people like Morocco Piccolo. Criminals like Morocco Piccolo were very dangerous. On the one hand, they were constantly on the edge of courting death, constantly testing the waters. On the other hand, they were also filled with fear of death. Chen Zhao didn't have to reason with them or talk about morality. He just had to ask them if they wanted to live or die. This was more effective than other methods. Boss Morguri. Morocco Piccolo said fearfully. I just owe you a little money. It's not just a little, Chen Zhao said. $50,000 isn't a small amount for anyone. I'll think of a way. I'll definitely pay you back. Then how do you plan to pay me back? Is it just a verbal promise? Chen Zhao asked, unconcerned. No. I have a way. I can definitely pay you back. A smile appeared on Chen Zhao's face. How many people have you made this promise to? How about this? My request isn't that high. Help me and I'll forget about the money. Morocco Piccolo's heart jumped. I understand. Mr. Chen, who do you want me to kill? Or help you transport goods? Chen Zhao's face darkened. I don't need you to do that. Mr. Chen, don't worry. I understand. Even if I get caught, I won't betray you, Morocco Piccolo said, acting smart. I said it's not about that, Chen Zhao said with a dark expression. Morguri put his arm on Morocco Bic's shoulder. Let him finish. Don't try to act smart. Yes. Morocco Bic wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. The pressure Morguri gave him was too great. This was a supervillain who killed without batting an eye. Sure enough, even if he had taught Morocco Bic a lesson in prison, he would still be able to defeat him. It was not as intimidating as Morguri. Go back to prison, Chen Zhao said. More accurately, go back to prison 7. Morocco Piccolo almost spat out blood. The 7th prison. Stop joking. Even though he used to be a frequent visitor of the 7th prison. But it didn't mean that he treated the 7th prison as his own nest. More and more people were dying there recently, and the frequency was increasing. Moreover, Morocco Piccolo remembered that night clearly. Mr. Chen, I can agree to anything, but this. I don't want to go back there even if I die. You know what's there, the White Nightmare. That's the White Nightmare. Morocco Piccolo remembered it very clearly. If Chen Zhao wasn't there that night, he'd be dead for sure. Morguri didn't know what was wrong with the 7th prison. If Chen Zhao wanted, he could arrange for someone to go in. Of course, since Chen Zhao wanted Morocco Piccolo to go in, he had to go. Even if he didn't want to, he had to go. Morguri, give me some alone time with him. Okay, call me if you need anything. Morguri turned and left quickly. The moment Morguri left, Chen Zhao suddenly grabbed Morocco Piccolo's neck. I'm not asking for your opinion. I'm ordering you. A wave of dark lava appeared behind Qin Zhao. If you refuse my request, then you can go to hell right now. Instantly, Morocco Piccolo felt fear he'd never felt before. It was a shock from both his body and mind. He knew that Qin Zhao wasn't an ordinary person. After all, Qin Zhao had chased the white nightmare away with his bare hands last time. Now, he finally saw Qin Zhao's true terror. Who do you think is scarier, me or the seventh prison? An evil smile appeared on Qin Zhao's face. I'll go, very good. Suddenly, Qin Zhao put away that creepy smile and the dark lava. Morocco Piccolo almost thought that spring had come. Qin Zhao put Morocco Piccolo down and patted his shoulder. Don't worry, I'll protect you. The warden of that prison is my friend. You'll enjoy 5-star treatment there. Morocco Piccolo wanted to cry. Even 10-star treatment was useless in that damn place. Of course, compared to the terror Qin Zhao had shown just now, that place didn't seem that scary anymore. Qin Zhao took out a bottle. It was filled with a thick and turbid liquid. Morocco Piccolo felt his hair stand on end just by looking at it. He didn't know what was in it. If you encounter danger, drink this. It can temporarily give you some inhuman power. Qin Zhao didn't tell him about the side effects. If Morocco Piccolo was a good person, Qin Zhao didn't mind giving him some benefits. For example, strengthening potions. But Morocco Piccolo wasn't a good person. In fact, he was an extremely evil person. All the bad habits of humans could be found in him. If he obtained inhuman power, who knew what crimes he would commit? So, it was best to give him this. It was the crazy corpsedemon saliva that Qin Zhao had Hellies concoct. Anyway, its origin was disgusting. After people took it, they could obtain great power in a short time. But the side effect was that they would have to lie in bed for a month. Can I not take it? Morocco Piccolo wasn't blind. How could he not see how terrifying and supernatural this thing was? It definitely wasn't some nectar. If you're not afraid of being pressed to the bed like last time when you encounter the white nightmare, I don't mind. But I can't bring it in. You don't have to worry about that. I'll think of something. 9 Heavens Divine Emperor. Chapter 21:10. After Qin Zhao let Morocco Bic go, Morgari walked in. Chen, we're done. Yes, we're done. Qin Zhao nodded. Should we send someone to follow him? No. Since we found him this time, he can't run anymore. Qin Zhao was rather confident about this. You're not looking for him just for the tens of thousands of dollars, right? Morgari had never interacted with Qin Zhao. However, he still paid attention to Qin Zhao occasionally. He had a rough idea of Qin Zhao's wealth. A few tens of thousands of dollars was really nothing to him. So, if there was no need, Qin Zhao wouldn't chase after someone who owed him tens of thousands of dollars. Chen, Victoria seems a bit strange recently. Morgari's expression was serious. To him, Qin Zhao and Victoria were his only friends. Qin Zhao had helped him in his most difficult time. Victoria, on the other hand, was with him when he needed company the most. To Morgari, it wasn't an exaggeration to say that Victoria was his family. Strange. What happened to Victoria? Some time ago, a foreign gang came to fight with me for territory. I don't know how they found out about my feelings for Victoria, but they wanted to kill Victoria to attack me. In the end, all the gunmen sent by the gang were killed by Victoria. Qin Zhao thought for a moment. Victoria's body is huge. She's about the same size as Princess. Princess has killed people before too. Victoria killing a few people isn't something you should be so surprised about. You haven't seen the scene. She tore down my house. Are you worried about your house? What do you think? Okay, take me to see Victoria, Chen Zhao said. Morguri brought Chen Zhao to his house. As a gang leader, Morguri's house was very remote. Almost no one knew where he lived. Of course, it wasn't a secret to Chen Zhao. When Chen Zhao and Morguri got out of the car, Victoria charged over happily. Morguri turned and left in fear. He'd experienced Victoria's super passionate charge before. Now that the walls around his house had been torn down, most of the credit had to go to Victoria. Only Chen Zhao opened his arms and Victoria rushed into his embrace. To cushion the impact, Chen Zhao had to take a few steps back. To prevent Victoria from knocking herself unconscious. Victoria rubbed her head against his body. Then he ran up to Morguri. She grunted and nudged Morguri with her head. It was as if it was complaining about Morguri for avoiding its warm welcome just now. Victoria, Morguri explained. Just because Chen can handle your passion doesn't mean I can too. I'm a normal person. Victoria turned back to Chen Zhao. Morguri was left standing there with a bitter smile. Chen's here, Morguri said helplessly. I'm sad that you treat me like this. Victoria looks very healthy. She doesn't seem to have any problems at all. Victoria, over there. Morguri pointed at a tree in front. Although Victoria was dissatisfied with Morguri, she still obeyed his orders and opened her mouth in that direction. Roar! This was definitely not the sound of a wild boar. Amidst the roar, the tree Morguri was pointing at collapsed. The entire tree trunk was cut in half. Sound waves. No, it wasn't a sound wave. It felt more like a shock wave. Not bad, Victoria. Good job. Chen Zhao patted Victoria. Chen, aren't you surprised at all? Chen Zhao looked at Morguri. Morguri, you seem to have forgotten that I practically created Victoria. Do you think I should be surprised? I should have thought of it. Morguri smiled bitterly. Actually, he had already realized something, but he wasn't sure. Tell me what's special about Victoria, Chen Zhao said. I'm not sure about the details, but I suspect that Victoria can absorb the shock and then release it. Am I thinking too much? No. Actually, I know someone who can do the same thing. Chen Zhao shrugged. You're talking about people with superpowers, right? He's like a superhero from the X-Men. You can think of it that way. Chen Zhao didn't plan on explaining too much to Morguri. Morguri wasn't part of the circle anyway. As for how he imagined it, Chen Zhao didn't care. Victoria was very smart. She wasn't even smarter than Princess. Victoria could complete many of Chen Zhao and Morguri's orders perfectly. Chen Zhao also did some small experiments on Victoria. He had a rough understanding of Victoria's abilities. Victoria indeed relied on absorbing the shock and then releasing it. But it wasn't an external attack. Instead, it created the shock itself. More accurately, it was kinetic energy. For example, when it crashed into Chen Zhao, even if Chen Zhao didn't retreat, it could still absorb it. If Chen Zhao attacked it, the attack wouldn't be absorbed. The shock would be as much as it should be. Of course, with Victoria's defense. Unless it was a large caliber gun, normal guns really couldn't do anything to Victoria. Plus, even a small car might not be able to hold Victoria's weight of more than 1,000 kilograms. So, the gunmen who came to kill Victoria in order to attack Morguri were really suicidal. Okay, it's fine. Victoria is very healthy, both physically and mentally. Okay. As soon as Chen Zhao left Morguri's house, he received a call from old Zhang. Chen Zhao, you hit my disciple. Which time are you talking about? Which time? Of course it's Yonghua. He can't get out of bed for half a month. Only half a month. Which hospital is he in? I'll treat him for another month. That's enough. Why did you hit Yonghua? Didn't he tell you? No. What happened to you guys? Then you can question him after you figure it out. If you keep talking, I'll kill him right now. Then I'll hang up first. I'll deal with you later. Zhang Tianyi scolded himself for being muddle-headed. He didn't even understand the situation before coming to question Chen Zhao. Given Chen Zhao's cautious nature, he wouldn't touch his grand disciple unless there was a reason. Chen Zhao pursed his lips. He seemed to have beaten Yonghua too lightly last time. Should he give him 2 more hits so that he'll be bedridden for at least half a year? Otherwise, he felt that the cost of breaking his promise was too low. Anyway, Chen Zhao was in the right this time. Old Zhang couldn't find any reason to refute him. But Yonghua seemed to be in the psionic team's headquarters right now. If Chen Zhao rashly went in, he wouldn't have any reputation. Chapter 21:11. On the way home, Chen Zhao received another call. Hey, West, what's up? President, the psionic team is recruiting again. As expected of the Anti-Terrorism Security Department. They have a lot of funds. Paying a spiritualist a higher salary than an ordinary person wasn't enough to raise them. Spiritualists needed training, nutrition, and mana replenishment. The money they needed was much more than a professional athlete's daily expenses. There were also some special types of spiritualists, such as alchemists and mechanical spiritualists. Their expenses were even higher. The expenses of a small or medium-sized company could barely support an alchemist's daily expenses. Therefore, the supernatural organization only had one alchemist, Ruan Faxben. They only had one healing spiritualist. If possible, he also wanted to find a few more alchemists and healing-type spiritualists. But that would be too much of a burden for the supernatural organization. The size of the organization determined the composition of its members. President, are we just going to let them continue being so arrogant? Sooner or later, they'll naively think that they're strong enough to challenge us and start a war with us. The people of the supernatural organization were naturally stronger than regular spiritualists. But the structure of the organization was a bit special. Most of them had their own families. He wasn't the kind of person who lived alone and didn't need to worry about his family. So, if a real war broke out, the supernatural organization would lose. Because this could affect their original family. So, both Chen Zhao and West were actually avoiding a real war. Chen Zhao had shown all the power in front of the psionic team. Wasn't he showing off his power to them? It made them think more carefully when making a choice. Chen Zhao thought for a moment and said, they're probably preparing to attack the Bermuda Demon Lair. In this operation, they'll probably use up all the people they recruited. They recruited quite a lot of people this time. What's your plan? Are you going to cause trouble for them? That's too crude, West said. It's not suitable. What's your plan? We'll observe and see if there are any good seeds that we can rope into the supernatural organization. Do you think we don't have enough people? It's not that we don't have enough people, but for the next Scarlet mission, we plan to challenge some difficult missions, so I'm afraid we won't be able to do it with our current manpower. Then can I help a little? Don't. Please don't, guild leader. If you interfere again, I'll really get angry. Okay, I won't interfere this time, I swear. West knew very well that Chen Zhao was one of the top few in the spiritual world. Perhaps even this one of them could be omitted. If Qin Zhao interfered, most operations in the world would no longer be operations. It was a one-sided slaughter. Alright, when are you going to observe? Remember to inform me if you come across any good seedlings. I have a list with me. Some of them are in L. West said. We can go and observe them now. Alright, where are you now? I think it's not far from Mirror Lake. Guild leader, are you home right now? I'm heading home. I'm almost at Mountain Town. Alright then, I'll wait for you in town. A while later, Chen Zhao met up with West. Where are we now? Is it in town? No, in the neighboring town, West said. The person they were going to find was currently living in Anders Town. They were less than 15 kilometers away from Mountain Town. Chen Zhao looked at the information West had given him. Target, Lindsay Beyonce, 25 years old, female, unemployed, with a bad personality. She'd been sent to the juvenile detention center for stealing in school. She'd arrived in L. less than 5 days ago. She was currently living at her uncle's house in Anders Town. What magic does this woman use? Chen Zhao asked. Not sure yet, but there are records of her using magic twice. One was to rob a bank, and the other was to protect her family. Chen Zhao and West arrived at Anders Town. Anders Town was much more desolate than Mountain Town. The two towns were about the same size, but Anders Town wasn't as lively as Mountain Town. After all, Mountain Town had Mountain Beer's production line. It created thousands of direct jobs in Mountain Town. There were also countless indirect business chains. But Anders Town didn't have a company like Mountain Beer. So, most people here worked outside. The conditions were much worse. Chen Zhao and West arrived at Anders Town, which was rather eye-catching. Especially Chen Zhao's car. It was too eye-catching. Chen Zhao parked the car by the road and walked into a fast food restaurant. When the boss at the cashier saw Chen Zhao and West, he was stunned. But soon, the boss sprinted out of the cashier and came before Chen Zhao and West. Mr. Chen, hello. Welcome. Chen Zhao looked at the boss in surprise. Hi, do we know each other? Hello, my daughter works at Dashin Brewery, so I've had the honor of meeting you. How may I be of service? Nothing, Chen Zhao said. My friend and I want to eat something. Can you bring some food over? Mountain Beer and the Mountain Town government had an agreement to give priority to mountain residents. However, this priority was under the same conditions. It didn't have to be mountain residents. So, the residents of the surrounding towns still had the chance to work in Mountain Town. Okay. One moment, please. The boss of the fast food restaurant ran to the backstage quickly. Soon, a woman in a midriff-bearing top and shorts walked out with a plate. Here's what you ordered. Enjoy. The woman casually tossed the plate on the table and turned to leave. Beyonce, be careful. That's Mr. Chen. He's very rich. Both Chen Zhao and West could hear the argument between the boss and the woman backstage. So what? What does it have to do with me? No matter how rich he is, it has nothing to do with you. Your sister Nicole works at his brewery. Do you want to make her lose her job? If he dares to make Nicole lose her job, I'll kill him. You'd better behave yourself. You can't offend that person. It said that there were 2 gangs in Mountain Town that disappeared overnight after offending that person, Wang Yao said. I'm not afraid. Chapter 21:12. President, it seems like you've done scary things at home too. Please, I did send them all to jail. At least most of them did. You don't think I killed them all, do you? Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. I'm against violence. The argument between the fast food restaurant owner and Lindsay Beyonce was rather loud. A while later, Lindsay Beyonce walked out of the backstage angrily. When she reached Chen Zhao and West's table, she stopped and kicked the corner of the table heavily. Then, she left angrily. Immediately, the fast food restaurant owner ran out. I'm sorry, Mr. Chin. My niece has been in a bad mood recently. I'm sorry she affected your meal. It's fine. Chen Zhao and West both expressed their understanding. They didn't plan to chase after Lindsay Beyonce immediately. Chen Zhao still finished the food in front of them unhurriedly. After eating, Chen Zhao put $2 bills on the table and left. West, you can track that woman's scent, right? I didn't leave a mark on him. President, you remember her scent, right? I don't remember. Even if I do, I won't use scent to track a woman. It's very dangerous to use your president as a hunting dog. Chen Zhao stared at West coldly. Fine, change your tracking method. I know you must have other methods. In fact, Lindsay Beyonce hadn't left Chen Zhao's little world. She was always under Chen Zhao's observation. At the moment, Lindsay Beyonce was in a small alley. Ever since she came out, she had been destroying things in the alley. It was obvious that it wasn't her first time here. It had become a place for her to vent her anger. She was punching the wall crazily. An enhancer. It seemed different from what Chen Zhao knew about strengthening. She was indeed strengthening her body. But she only attached magic to the surface of her body. It was completely different from regular strengthening. Take Chen Zhao as an example. Other than using immortal power, he would also let it change his body in order to achieve a qualitative change and finally strengthen himself. The other enhancers might be slightly different, but they were generally of the same type. But Lindsay Beyonce treated her magic like a bulletproof vest. Chen Zhao could do it too, because the quality of his immortal power was completely different from normal magic power. But this woman's magic power was not very strong, and could only be regarded as medium level. But she could arm herself with pure magic. Chen Zhao and West came to the alley and saw that the walls were covered in fists. It could be seen that every time she quarreled with her uncle, she would come here to vent her anger. Also, the frequency of her venting seemed to be a little high. Lindsay Beyonce saw Chen Zhao and West at the end of the alley. He immediately revealed a ferocious expression. What are you looking at? Do you think I won't beat you up? Lindsay Beyonce had always been rebellious. She hated people like West and Chen Zhao. They looked decent but were actually filthy people. Miss Lin Sand, we're here to look for you. Looking for me? What are you doing? Lindsay Beyonce squinted at Chen Zhao and West, sizing them up. Then what do you think we'll do with you? Thinking for a moment, she looked at Chen Zhao and West with even more disgust. You know what I did in the past. Who do you want me to beat up? Or do you want me to harass someone? Fuck off, I won't be your fighter, Lindsay Beyonce said in disgust. However, Chen Zhao and West didn't plan to leave. She stood at the entrance of the alley, looking at Lindsay Beyonce with a smile. Lindsay Beyonce seemed to have sensed the malice from Chen Zhao and West. Didn't you hear what I said? Do you really think I won't dare to hit you? Lindsay Beyonce didn't do anything, she just scolded. She remembered that her uncle had told her that Chen Zhao was a rich man. She did not want to cause trouble for her uncle. Although she argued with her uncle almost every day. Her uncle was really nice to her. If possible, she really did not want to drag her uncle down because of her. Your magic looks interesting, West said, looking at Lindsay Beyonce. He could also see Lindsay Beyonce's special magic. You're a spiritualist too. Lind Beyonce looked at Qin Zhao. You too, right? Or did you hire this old man specifically to help you solve all kinds of supernatural problems? That's right. He's my fighter. How about it? Are you interested in being my fighter? I can pay you a lot. Trash, get lost. Ha. Little girl, it's not nice to treat my boss like this. West stepped forward. You need to apologize. Old man, be careful or I'll crush your balls. Crack, Lind Beyonce clenched her fists. If you can do it, you can give it a try. West opened his arms generously. So you're a masochist. If you don't leave, I won't go easy on you. I'm not joking. I'm not joking. If you can do it, then come over and crush my whitey. Lind Beyonce suddenly charged at West. But the next moment, Lind Beyonce felt her body stiffen. No, more accurately, she was immobilized. There was nothing wrong with her body. It was her senses that had gone wrong. She seemed to have become sluggish. Lind Beyonce quickly thought of a way to escape. Instantly, Lind Beyonce shrunk back. Both Qin Zhao and West were shocked. Lind Beyonce's move was like a cicada escaping its shell. West's field of slowness could slow down all living things within a certain range. However, West's field of slowness was used on Lind Beyonce's shield. Lind Beyonce removed the complete shield and used the chance to escape from the field of slowness. It had to be said that this move almost blinded Qin Zhao and West. It was not because she was powerful, but because of Lind Beyonce's outstanding battle experience. Lind Beyonce also took the chance to close in on West. Old man, you're finished. Lind Beyonce's fist was already close to West's face. But West maintained his smile. You overestimate yourself. Chapter 21:13. Lind Beyonce was also a violent person. West's words had already ignited her fighting spirit. Lind Beyonce sneered. Old man, don't let me break your bones. West crooked his finger. Come. Lind Beyonce charged at West. Freeze. Just as West froze Beyonce in place, Beyonce cast another golden cicada escape. This cicada shedding could break free from West's control in an instant. In a sense, Lindsay's ability was a great counter to West's. But that was when they were at the same level or close to each other. In terms of magic power, there was still a gap between West and Lindsay Beyonce. Lind Beyonce used the same trick and appeared in front of West in the blink of an eye. West wasn't good at fighting alone. In the past, he had always been a strategist in the supernatural organization's operations. But that didn't mean he couldn't fight. West looked at Lindsay Beyonce who was approaching. He raised his right palm and snapped his fingers. Paw! Instantly, Lindsay lost her balance. Her body seemed to lose its momentum in the air and she fell heavily to the ground. Lind Beyonce wanted to stand up immediately. But when West pressed his finger down, Beyonce immediately felt an invisible weight pressing on her back. The invisible thing that was pressing down on Lindsay Beyonce was actually air. West's slow field could affect more than just living things. Even air could be affected. Within a certain range, the air would lose its mobility. Lind Beyonce tried to use the same trick to escape. But this time, she was completely surrounded by air. The thick air completely sealed off her escape route. Old man, if I break free, I will crush your balls, Lind Beyonce said in a vicious tone. West squeezed his legs. Then I can't let you go. Lind Beyonce was even more furious. But the difference in strength was obvious. She couldn't break free even if she wanted to. This was not a problem that could be solved with skill. Fine, I give up. Lind Beyoncé rolled her eyes and shouted. In an instant, West released Lind Beyoncé's restraints. Boss, let's go. West and Chen Zhao, who were watching from the side, turned and left. Just then, Lind Beyoncé dashed behind West. Get down. West didn't even look back as he pressed Beyoncé to the ground. The two of them left without looking back. President, what do you think of her? Did she come into contact with other spiritualists in the past? She seems to have a lot of battle experience and doesn't look like a spiritualist without any power. Have you forgotten? She spent 2 years in the juvenile detention center. According to my investigation, she also committed all sorts of crimes in the juvenile detention center. Did she train her fighting skills in the juvenile detention center? If that's the case, then I can only say that she's a genius. Logically speaking, without rich combat experience, it would be very difficult to hone such outstanding combat skills. But there were indeed geniuses in this world. If Lind Beyoncé was really a genius, then everything would make sense. In front of a genius, anything that was unreasonable could become reasonable. What about her abilities? West asked. Not bad, but that's all. If we really want to recruit her into the supernatural organization, it's best to train her character. The organization follows individual will, but it doesn't do whatever it wants. Also, Maev wants to become an official member. I agree with Maev becoming an official member, Chen Zhao said. After all, we know her very well. What about her husband, Jigs? Jigs doesn't object. Jigs was living with Maev in the headquarters now. Apparently, Jigs found a professional manager for his company and did nothing else. He just relaxed with the people in the organization every day. Or accompanied Maev. After awakening, Maev also became an outer member with Chen Zhao's approval. Who's next? Toddy Belster. She's very famous in Washington. She's a regular on TV. She's good at exorcism, prophecy, and curses. That's really traditional. These spells belonged to the traditional magic system. Of course, such traditional spiritualists made up a large proportion of the entire Western spirit world. Chen Zhao and West hurried to the famous spiritualist's residence. As soon as they got downstairs, they saw a man walk out of the apartment. President, that's him. With West's reminder, Chen Zhao immediately turned around. He caught up to Toddy and grabbed her hand. Hi, Mr. Toddy. Hi, are you my fans? I'm on a tight schedule. Give me your phones. What? Aren't you taking pictures? Toddy asked matter-of-factly. Mr. Toddy, I think you're mistaken, West said. We're not your fans and we're not here to take pictures. Fine. If you're here for trouble, I'm afraid you found the wrong person. I'm a spiritualist. I'll make sure you live in fear for the rest of your lives. Chen Zhao and West's faces darkened. Toddy Belster was a very egotistical and arrogant person. They couldn't even finish a sentence. Toddy Belster kept talking to herself. Mr. Toddy, we're in the same profession as you. We're spiritualists too. Same profession. So you're here for trouble? Or is he here to compete with me? I'm not interested. Go find someone else. My magic is used to deal with evil creatures, not humans. I don't want to hurt you. We're not competing with you, West said. We just want to see how strong you are. I still refuse. You don't know what kind of person you're facing. The person who asked me to use magic on him last time is now a puddle of paste. You definitely don't want that to happen. We're spiritualists too, so you don't have to worry about hurting us. No, that's what the person said last time, but his arrogance killed him in the end. I blame myself and swore to never use magic on humans again. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.